Chapter 3081. The attitude of the 12 races placed the desolate race in a difficult position. It also made Elder Chi, who was leading the desolate race team, very vexed. He felt that he had lost a lot of face. He was here to mediate, but neither side seemed to give him any face. If the desolate race's Elder Chi was angry, he definitely had to do something, or no one would know that he was angry. He gathered the representatives of the 12 clans and the Tiango clan together and asked one thing: could they have a proper discussion? There was no room for discussion. If there was a need to fight, the desolate race would intervene in the war depending on the situation. With just one sentence from Grand Elder Chi, the Tiango tribe and the 12 tribes immediately cowered. Elder Chi was acting like a hooligan. He had directly used his trump card. With the desolate race involved in the war, which race in the entire infinite desolate star domain could withstand it? This was a matter between the Tiango race and the 12 large races. What did it have to do with the desolate race? However, the Tiango race and the 12 large races did not dare say a word. The desolate race had always been domineering, but they had the capital to be domineering. In the infinite desolate star region, they were the only ones bullying others. No other race dared to bully them. Since they couldn't fight, they could only talk. The Heavenly Hound tribe needed face, and the 12 ancient clans couldn't be too obnoxious. They couldn't possibly ask the 12 ancient clans to compensate the Heavenly Hound tribe, right? The 12 races definitely wouldn't do it, as it would make them lose face. In the end, Patriarch Chi gave a suggestion, which was to let the Heavenly Hound race into the Yin and Yang universe to track Luli. If they could capture Luli, then the halberd of Emperor Yong would belong to the Heavenly Dog race. If he couldn't give them face, he could only give them something in return. If the Tiango tribe could take down the Yong sovereign's halberd, they would be able to gain some face as well as some losses. It wouldn't be a bad thing if the news got out. The Tiango tribe had no objections. Goen was in the wrong this time, and they just needed a way out of this embarrassing situation. The 12 alien races were not convinced, but they had been searching for Luli for a long time without finding him. The Heavenly Hound race was good at tracking. If the Heavenly Hound race could go in and find Luli, they could save some face. After all, Luli was just a warrior of the Emperor realm. It was shameful that the 12 alien races could not find him after sending out so many warriors and warriors. Something's wrong, Go Lu frowned and asked, what if that human brat isn't in the Yin-Yang realm? Didn't we look for him for nothing? Here, Elder Chi said with certainty. Before I came, I asked Ancestor Fu and he gave me a very definite answer. That human brat is in the Yin-Yang world. During this period of time, the outside has been sealed, so it's impossible for that brat to escape. As for whether or not you can find him, that will depend on your Tiango clan's abilities. All right, Go Lu shouted. As long as Luli was in the Yin and Yang universe, they would be able to find him. The Heavenly Dog clan's tracking technique was unparalleled in the world. This was not just for show. This time, the Tiango clan had sent so many troops and experts into the Yin-Yang world. It would be easy for them to find a human. Elder Chi, one of the 12 patriarchs, said, if we find that human boy first, then this young Emperor halberd will be ours, right? The Tiango clan couldn't find it, but we found it. Are we going to give it to them? Of course. Senior Elder Chi nodded slightly and said, let's rely on our own abilities. Go Lu, your race's tracking skills are very powerful. If they find you first, then it will be your incompetence. You cannot blame them. Go Lu snorted and said, they have been searching for 3 months and still haven't found him. Even if we give them another 30 years, they won't be able to find him. There is nothing to say. Let's rely on our own abilities. Okay, it's a deal. Senior Elder Chi smiled in satisfaction and said, this old man will say one more thing. Control your subordinates and do not start a fight in the Yin-Yang realm. This old man will personally enter as well. This old man will definitely not be polite to whichever side attacks first. With Patriarch Chi's forceful mediation, a war that was about to break out was averted. More than a dozen senior patriarchs of the Tiango race and thousands of warriors entered the Yin and Yang universe. They spread out to search for Luli. When the patriarchs of the 12 alien races went back, they mobilized and assigned tasks to their subordinates to search every corner. Since Ancestor Fu said that Luli was in the Yin and Yang universe, then he must be there. Therefore, they must find Luli and find him before the Tiango race did. Right at that moment, the Red Dragon race wanted to get involved as well. Cauldron King of the Red Dragon race came in person. But he was not here for the halberd of Emperor Yong. He only wanted Lu Li's body. He had reached an agreement with the patriarchs of the 12 alien races to mobilize tens of thousands of elite scouts of the Red Dragon race to help the 12 alien races search for Luli. When Luli was found, Emperor Yong's halberd would be handed over to the 12 alien races, but Luli would be given to him. Of course, the 12 alien races were happy to do so. They were not interested in Luli. An Emperor Realm warrior could be killed by anyone. Since Cauldron King had come in person, they had to show respect. The entire Yin and Yang universe was in chaos. The 12 alien races offered a huge reward. Anyone who could provide clues would be rewarded handsomely. There was a long list of treasures. The entire Yin and Yang universe was under martial law. Everyone was looking for a human. Almost all the humans in the Yin and Yang universe were under control. Whether it was Luli or not, they would be controlled and investigated one by one. The records of the Emperor Realm warriors of the Yin and Yang universe began. All the Emperor Realm warriors were numbered and screened one by one. This was the stupidest method, but it was the most effective. They could be eliminated one by one. In the wild, they would do a carpet search and cross-search to make sure there were no blind spots. All the places of danger were guarded by powerful warriors in case Luli sneaked in. Thousands of the Heavenly Hound race scattered into the Yin and Yang universe. Like mud flowing into the sea, they all disappeared. They were looking for all possible clues, like bugs hibernating in the sewers. They did not let go of any place. The Valley of Earth Dragons of the U race was not missed. Instead, the Heavenly Hound race found this place soon because it was not far from the Mountain of Bones. When Luli came out, there was a riot among the slaves here. When the Heavenly Hound race learned of this, a patriarch came in person. He searched all the slaves and the mines but found nothing. No matter how one looked at him, Luli was no different from a dwarf. He was a pure dwarf. He even stood in front of the patriarch of the Heavenly Hound race, but the patriarch did not notice anything. Xiao Mo's skill of transfiguration was miraculous. Of course, if it were not for this skill, Xiao Mo would have been killed, and he would not have become the most powerful warrior in the underground world. After the patriarch left, cold sweat broke out on Lu Li's forehead. He did not know what was going on outside, but the fact that the patriarch of the Heavenly Hound race could find his way here spoke volumes. Luli put his mind at ease after the patriarch left. If the Heavenly Hound race could not find him, then no other race could track him down. He was right. Not long afterward, a patriarch of the U race came as well. He checked again and found nothing wrong. Luli got away with it easily. At first, he wanted to be a slave, and he did not have much time to cultivate. He wanted to find a chance to leave and find a place to hide. After the patriarchs of the Heavenly Hound race and the U race came, Luli decided to stay here for a couple of years. He could leave when the limelight died down. He could stay here and try to learn the art of concealment. By then, he could go anywhere in the world. P.S. The Yuan Group, the website that the old monster was on, is holding an annual meeting. There have been too many meetings these days, so the updates are not stable. On the 8th, he went back and filled in the chapters for the past few days. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leader's Mobile Version. Chapter 3082. 1 year. It had been a year. The yin and yang universe had been turned upside down. Hundreds of millions of warriors and scouts, as well as tens of thousands from the Heavenly Hound race and Red Dragon race, could not find Lu Li. Lady Li was disappointed, and the Heavenly Hound race and Red Dragon race were humiliated. The 12 major races of the yin and yang universe were furious. Fu Zhu would not lie to them. The void had been sealed off by warriors. Lu Li must still be in the yin and yang universe. But they could not find him. This was a failure. Another Shao demon had come. This was the consensus of the entire star region of Infinite Star. Lu Li might have inherited several powerful skills from the Shao demon. This fact was well reported. Otherwise, he could not have escaped the detection of so many powerful warriors and scouts. The yin and yang universe was a large place, but this time it was a national search. The entire yin and yang universe was on the move. The reward offered by the 12 major races was generous. Therefore, if it were not for the fact that Lu Li had cultivated skill of transfiguration, he would have been identified as a human being and as an emperor. The Earth Dragon Valley where Lu Li was searched 4 or 5 times. Powerful warriors of the Red Dragon race, the 12 major races and another patriarch of the Heavenly Hound race were here as well. Lu Li had not been discovered since the beginning. Many slaves were killed during the last slave riot. Therefore, the number of surviving slaves was unknown. The commander in the Earth Dragon Gorge also checked, but did not find anything. It had been a year, but Lady Li, the Red Dragon race, the Heavenly Hound race and the 12 major races of the yin and yang universe had not given up. Of course, the search was less intensive. Warriors and warriors of the yin and yang universe had given up. The reward was high, but they could not afford to waste their time. During the year, Lu Li had made some progress in the art of concealment. If he could focus on cultivation under the sacred tree on the holy mountain, he would have learned it a long time ago. Lu Li did not mind. As long as he could not be found, he could cultivate for a few years. He had mastered some skills. When he was mining underground, he pretended to be mining mechanically. But in fact, he was multitasking and studying in secret. Blood Fairy would monitor the surroundings for him and alert him if any warriors came. Inside the canyon, the Moon Clan's army was no longer as strict with the slaves' surveillance. After killing so many slaves last time, these slaves had all become more obedient. The slaves had lost all hope as well. They had become the walking dead, which made things easier for Lu Li. Otherwise, if the dwarfs came to talk to him every day, Lu Li would give himself away. Of course, some dwarfs went to Lu Li as well, but Lu Li pretended to be an idiot and never said a word. His eyes and his face were numb, as if he had suffered a great blow. The other dwarfs didn't talk to him either. Bang bang bang! Lu Li had a pickaxe in his hand. He kept swinging it, digging up the hard stones one by one, trying to find a dark purple crystal. Even though his eyes were open, his mind had been wandering away, concentrating on his comprehension. The places he chose to mine were all in the corners, so there were no dwarves nearby. It didn't matter where they dug, or how they dug, as long as they handed in a certain amount of crystal stones every month. If the first time wasn't enough, he would be punished, and if it was the second time, he would be killed. Give me another half a year and I should be able to do it. Half a day later, Lu Li stopped and sat down to rest. He spat out an interspatial ring from his mouth, took out some food and closed his eyes to rest. The art of concealment was going well. He could go invisible now. That being said, the average Emperor Realm warriors could sense him. He believed he could master it in about half a year. No. In the yin and yang city, Lady Li could not sit still. She had been sitting here for a year, but she felt it had been more than a decade. She couldn't search and she couldn't cultivate in peace. She felt as if every day here was like a year. She walked around in the palace, made up her mind and said to a patriarch, "I want to go back to the flying immortal city." Okay. The Grand Elder's face revealed a trace of joy. Had this grand aunt finally decided to go back? Even though nobody dared to kill Lady Li, the yin and yang world was a complicated place. It was safer to go back to the desolate race's territory. I want to go to our forefather, Lady Li said with determination. I will ask our forefather to calculate Lu Li's exact location. I must find him. The desolate race's patriarch looked embarrassed. He had troubled Ancestor Fu twice for such a small matter. This time, he wanted Ancestor Fu to calculate Lu Li's exact location. This would require a lot of Ancestor Fu's energy. If it wasn't for Lady Li, who would dare to ask Ancestor Fu? Lady Li was a girl that Ancestor Fu liked very much. If she begged and acted coquettishly, Ancestor Fu might waste some energy to help her calculate. If it was anyone else, Ancestor Fu would probably slap them to death. Lady Li knew that Ancestor Fu would need a lot of energy to calculate Lu Li's exact location, but she could not stand it. As long as Lu Li was alive, she would feel a burning pain on her face. For the past year, Lu Li's despicable face would constantly appear in her mind. It was driving her crazy. Humans strive for dignity, Buddha strive for incense. To Lady Li, she did not care about treasures. She did not even desire the young emperor's halberd. Even if she obtained it, she would hand it over to her family clan. What she wanted was to prove herself. She was smug and ready to show off. Now that she was about to get it, she was intercepted. No one would be able to stand it, not to mention Lady Li was a proud daughter of heaven. Women were always narrow-minded. Lady Li had never been treated like this in her life. Therefore, even though she knew this request was a little too much, she was prepared to be willful. 2 hours later, Lady Li brought the two desolate races' patriarchs to the yin and yang world's space-time portal and went to the nearby big world. Then, they continued to use the space-time portal to teleport to the flying celestial world. Lady Li had enough influence. Using the space-time portal was much faster. This place was quite far from the flying celestial world. If they took a battleship, it would take at least a year to go back and forth. Using the space-time portal, it would only take 2 months. 2 months later, Lady Li appeared in the holy city of the flying celestial world. She did not even bother to rest or tidy up her appearance. She went straight to Ancestor Fu's palace. "Girl, you are back?" When Ancestor Fu saw Lady Li enter, his old bark-like face revealed a benevolent smile. He nodded slightly and said, "You are a little later than I expected. Not bad, you have improved a little. You have become more composed. This time, you know that there is always someone better out there, right? Amir the Arch has managed to fool all of you. This matter is quite interesting." Lady Li never expected Ancestor Fu to have predicted everything. Her eyes turned red as tears nearly fell. She said aggrievedly, "Ancestor, are you just going to watch Li get bullied by that despicable human? Why didn't you help me earlier? Li is about to become a joke. Ancestor, quickly help me calculate where that despicable human is. I must find him and cut him into pieces." "Ha ha ha!" Ancestor Fu laughed out loud and shook his head. "I just praised you for being more mature, but you are still so childish. I can help you this time, but I suggest that even if you find him, it's best you don't kill him. If possible, it's best you befriend him?" Befriend? Lady Li thought that she had heard wrongly. Her eyes widened as she exclaimed, "Me? Befriend Amir the Arch of the human race? Ancestor, you are not joking, right?" "No," Ancestor Fu said very seriously. "Before you came back, I had already calculated his approximate location. Apart from calculating his location, I also sensed that this person's fate is very special. If it is not necessary, do not make him an enemy. P.S. Normal updates will resume tomorrow. Please remember this book's original domain name. Third Sect Masters Mobile Version. Chapter 3083. Ancestor Fu's words were very mysterious, But Ancestor Fu was not only a god in Miss Li's eyes, he was a supreme god in the hearts of the entire desolate race. His words were believed by everyone in the desolate race, and they were treated as divine decrees. Hence, Miss Li still believed in Ancestor Fu's words. She paused and could not help but ask, Ancestor, I still don't understand. So what if his life is special? So what if he is a person blessed by Providence? Taking 10,000 steps back, so what if he has cultivated to your current realm? As the overlord of the desolate race, why would we deliberately befriend him? He is only at the Emperor realm now. How many years would he need to cultivate to the sacred Emperor realm? Miss Li's analysis was very objective. She did not add fuel to the fire because of her disgust for Luli. If it were anyone else, they would probably have the same thoughts as Miss Li. Unknowable, unspeakable, unfathomable, Ancestor Fu said mysteriously before waving his hand. He is in a valley in the yin-yang world. There are many slaves in that valley, so he should have mastered the divine transfiguration technique. Emperor Yang's halberd is actually nothing. You can decide what to do. If you are determined to kill him, then you must make arrangements. You absolutely cannot let him escape, understand? I understand. Thank you, Ancestor. Miss Li bowed and turned to walk out. She did not rest as she immediately teleported to the yin-yang world with the two doyens. Ancestor Fu closed his eyes and pondered for a moment. After a while, he muttered, Blessings are accompanied by disasters, and disasters are accompanied by blessings. Whether this is a blessing or a curse will depend on your luck. Although Miss Li was the first to teleport there, she was feeling very conflicted. Ancestor Fu's words made her unable to make up her mind. Should she kill Luli or just snatch Emperor Yang's halberd? Although she was a top daughter of a large race, it was not that Miss Li's hands had never been stained with blood. In fact, she had been stained with a lot of blood. The desolate race had sent out their younger generation many times in the past. The elders in the race had allowed them to kill other warriors when they were very young, so they did not have any qualms about killing. Ever since they were young, they had been taught that the desolate race absolutely could not be soft-hearted. This was because the desolate race was the overlord of this star domain. They needed to be ruthless in order to intimidate the other large races. Lady Li didn't feel any pressure killing Lu Lily, but Fu Zhu's words put a lot of pressure on her. If it wasn't a special situation, Fu Zhu would definitely not say anything. In Fu Zhu's eyes, let alone emperor rank, he didn't even put Xiao Mo in his eyes. Even a perfected sacred emperor was not feared by the desolate race, because the desolate race also had experts at that level. Let's go there first. Lady Li thought about it. She couldn't make up her mind. She had better find Luli first. If Luli was sensible enough to give her the halberd of Emperor Yong with a good attitude, then she wouldn't mind sparing his life. By the time she arrived at the yin-yang world with the two saint emperors, almost half a year had passed. After half a year, the yin and yang universe, the heavenly hound and the red dragon still could not find Luli. The heavenly hound felt humiliated. If they couldn't find Luli after such a long time, they wouldn't be able to find him even if they searched for another 100 years. Cauldron Emperor felt humiliated as well. Who was he? He was a man of his word. Since he had promised sacred ancestor Yuan, he would do everything he could to fulfill his promise, even if he had to pay a heavy price. They had already paid a heavy price. Cauldron Emperor came in person, but he found nothing. Cauldron Emperor was humiliated and angry. The thing was, being angry was pointless. If they couldn't find Luli, he couldn't destroy the yin and yang universe. Even if he wanted to, Cauldron Emperor didn't have the ability. The yin and yang universe was a stable super-universe. Lady Li teleported to the city of perpetual peace. As soon as she came out, she found a family patriarch in the city and asked, Family Patriarch Chu, how many canyons are there in the yin and yang universe? How many places have canyons and slaves? Family Patriarch Chu was puzzled. Why was Lady Eli asking this? Lady Eli had disappeared for half a year and now she was back. Why was she asking this when she hadn't even warmed her seat? But Lady Eli was a young lady of the desolate race after all. He didn't dare to slight her. He looked at a patriarch who said after a moment, "There are many canyons of various sizes. I think there are hundreds of them? If there are slaves, it means there are veins in the canyons. There should be more than a dozen canyons with veins." A dozen? Lady Eli nodded and said, "Can you help me mark all the veins on the map?" Family Patriarch Chu finally came to his senses. He asked seriously, "Lady Eli, did you get some clues? Is that human in the canyons?" "I am just suspecting." Lady Eli didn't reveal anything. She said, "Family Patriarch Chu, don't worry about it. Mark it for me. I will look for him. If I can find him, it will be a good thing, right?" The patriarch took out a map and marked the canyons according to his memory. Then he called over a patriarch of the intelligence hall to compare and mark 2 more points. "Thank you. I will go and have a look." Lady Eli took the map and left. A patriarch said at once, "Family Patriarch, should we send scouts to follow her?" "Follow her for what?" Family Patriarch Chu stared at him and said, "Are you planning on snatching Emperor Yong's halberd from Lady Eli?" "I can't snatch it." That patriarch rubbed his nose in embarrassment. "Since you don't dare to snatch it," Family Patriarch Chu said, "then why are you sending scouts? They can easily sense it. Is offending Lady Eli beneficial to our race?" That patriarch nodded slightly and added after some thought, "Why don't we send patriarchs to search the other canyons ahead of time? She will definitely search the canyons one by one. We can intercept her. The losses outweigh the gains." Family Patriarch Chu coldly waved his hand and said, "Let's not talk about finding that human. Even if we find him and take Emperor Yong's halberd, it would be equivalent to offending Lady Eli. Behind Lady Eli is the ancestor prestige. Furthermore, Lady Eli will definitely become one of the upper echelons of the desolate race in the future. We are already at odds with the Tiango race. Is it worth it to offend the desolate race for a sacred weapon?" "All right then." The patriarch helplessly nodded. Family Patriarch Chu pondered for a moment and said, "We still need to send scouts, but don't go too close. We just need to determine where Lady Eli is. If Lady Eli takes down that human punk, inform me immediately. I will then ask for that human. Emperor Yong's halberd can be given to Lady Eli, but the human has to be in our hands." Killing 2 birds with 1 stone. The patriarch pondered for a moment before his eyes lit up and said, "If we take down that human, we can smack the Tiango race's face. We can also make a deal with the Cauldron Emperor. Family Patriarch is brilliant." Family Patriarch Chu laughed and said proudly, "Our 12 races have fought against the Tiango race, and we have already made a name for ourselves. If we can take down that human, our 12 races will consider forming an alliance and strive to become the 34th race. Please remember this book's domain name. Third Sect Masters Mobile Version. Chapter 3084. Bang, bang, bang. In the Valley of Earth Dragons, a bulky dwarf was smashing at the rocks with his pickaxe. His eyes were wide open. But if someone could see his eyes, they would see that there was no light in his eyes, as if he were blind. Luli pretended to be mining, but he was actually cultivating. Many crystals had been broken by him. He had come to a critical moment. He had told Blood Fairy to wake him up only when a warrior came to him. Otherwise, he was not to be woken up. He was about to master the art of concealment. The art of concealment and the art of transformations were the treasures that Xiao Mo could use to roam the universe. The art of teleportation was not so important. Once his identity was exposed, he would be caught soon even if he could run away. His death last time proved this point. The art of transformations was the most important. With the help of the art of concealment, it would be extremely difficult to find Xiao Mo. The only exception would be a powerful warrior like the Reverend Ancestor who had special skills. But how many of such warriors were there in the entire universe? The Reverend Ancestor would not lower himself to help Xiao Mo unless he had offended them. Therefore, after Lu Li had mastered the art of concealment, the Reverend Ancestor would not come after him in person unless he had killed a senior patriarch of the desolate race or a disciple with a distinguished status like Lady Li. Of the entire universe, only a handful of powerful warriors could find Lu Li and capture him. Lu Li would not have to worry about being caught or killed. Time moved on. Lu Li was lucky. During this time, the valley was quiet. The warriors patrolled less. For half a month, no one came by. Lu Li was in the deepest part of the underground. Occasionally, there would be some warriors patrolling around, but they would go back after a routine. Rustle, rustle, rustle. 2 days later, a dwarf passed by. Hearing the sounds of mining, the dwarf came over. Blood Fairy wanted to warn him, but on second thought, the dwarf was not powerful enough to pose a threat to Lu Li. Therefore, she did not do so. When the dwarf got close to Lu Li, he saw that Lu Li had dug out many crystals and many of them had been broken. The dwarf cried out at once. Lu Li had shut off his senses. He did not know that a dwarf was coming. Naturally, he did not answer the dwarf. The dwarf called out a few times, but seeing that Lu Li didn't respond, he sneakily began to pick up the crystals on the ground. After grabbing a dozen crystals, he ran away. Blood Fairy was relieved. She would not wake Lu Li up and Lu Li would not wake up either. He was at the most critical moment. He could master it at any time. 3 days later, Lu Li heard a deep voice. Then, a jade talisman on his waist glowed. If Lu Li could see or hear it, he would immediately understand that this was a gathering order. Previously, the Tiango race, Crimson Dragon race, and other powerful beings of the 12 races had come to search for him. Every time, they had to gather all the slaves, and the speed of gathering them was a little slow. Therefore, the Yu clan gave each slave a jade talisman and told them that when the horn sounded and the jade talisman lit up, they had to gather at the canyon square within an hour. If they were late, they would be killed without mercy. Blood Fairy knew what the jade talisman meant, and she grew anxious. If Lu Li did not wake up in an hour, there would be warriors coming down to search for him. By then, if Lu Li did not fight back, he would be killed. If he did, his identity would be exposed. What to do? Blood Fairy did not know when Lu Li could master it. She was getting impatient. After some thoughts, she dashed away in a ray of red light. She went to another passage that was hundreds of miles away from this place, and began to set up a maze in the passage. Blood Fairy did not have human emotions, but that did not mean that she was not smart. On the contrary, she was very smart. She was setting up a maze to buy Lu Li more time. In that case, if some warriors came down to investigate and found the maze formation, they would go and crack it at once and follow the maze formation. In this way, Lu Li would have more time to recover. She could wake Lu Li up now, but she believed he was about to master it. This was the most important moment. If he was interrupted, it might take a long time. Therefore, she decided to take the risk. The Yu race would not gather slaves for no reason. This time, they were gathering because some important people were here to search for all the slaves. The important people were the 3 saint kings of the wild race, and one of them was a lady of high status. A patriarch of the Yu race came in person. He did not know why Lady Li wanted to come to the valley, but he had to go with her. An empty space in the valley was filled with slaves. There must be more than 100,000 of them. All the warriors and warriors were here. The patriarch of the Yu race took a look and asked the leader, "Check and see if everyone is here." The leader waved his hand. More than a dozen junior leaders and hundreds of warriors began to check. Every jade talisman had a number on it. The slaves were standing according to the number. At the same time, Lady Li and the 2 patriarchs of the wild race began to use psychic power to check the slaves and warriors. They checked the slaves' realms, energy, expressions, and even the look in their eyes. They even checked the slightest movements. Doyen, we're still missing one. Number 93,426. An hour later, the leader came to report. Lady Li and the other patriarchs had checked 3 times but found nothing out of the ordinary. Lady Li and the 2 patriarchs' eyes glowed when they heard the leader's words. Seal off a radius of 5,000 miles. Get all the slaves to return to their barracks and do not move. Anyone who does will be killed. With a shout, Miss Li led the 2 desolate race elders and charged into the mine. The patriarch of the U race quickly made arrangements. He did not mobilize the army into the mine. Lady Li and the rest were fast, so it was easy for them to check the mine. As long as they controlled the situation, the problem would be simple. Psychic power is restricted here? Lady Li and the rest were a little depressed when they rushed into the mine. The rocks were too hard and they could not use psychic power. However, they were not in a hurry. Although the mine was crisscrossed and stretched for hundreds of thousands of miles, they were too fast. They could search very clearly. Split up and search. Lady Li waved her hand. The 2 patriarchs were hesitant, but Lady Li waved her hand and said, "What are you afraid of? My defense is so strong, and I have my ancestors' seal stone. Luli is just an emperor. How can he kill me?" "All right. Lady, if you find him, remember to send us a message first," a desolate race elder instructed as he rushed downwards. They were indeed fast. In the time it took for a few incense sticks to burn, one of the patriarchs had found the tunnel Blood Fairy had set up. Found it. The desolate race patriarch saw a powerful maze? Clearly, the U race would not set up a maze here. There was only one explanation. Luli was hiding here. Bang! The jade talisman in the hands of the other patriarch and Lady Li cracked. Lady Li's eyes lit up. She said with a cold expression, "You've finally found him? I really thought you could hide forever. Even if I don't die, I will make you suffer. Otherwise, how can I take this lying down? P.S. I only got home at night. I was too tired to finish writing. I will start writing chapters tomorrow. I will finish in 2 or 3 days. Please remember this book's domain name." Third Sect Leader's Mobile Version. Chapter 3085. They are here. The patriarchs of the wild race began to crack the formation. Blood Fairy was taken aback. She could tell that the powerful warriors were coming. Her misdirection could only last for an hour. If Luli did not wake up by then, she would have to wake him up by force. Even if she did, Luli would still be exposed and he would have to run for his life. The powerful warriors would not give Luli the chance to explain. Luli had not been up for an hour, not to mention that Blood Fairy had set up a formation. He was exposed. On the other side, Miss Li and the others had already broken through the maze. They chased all the way down at a very fast speed. Soon, they had searched more than a dozen mines over there. They did not find any living beings. They were hesitant, but they did not stop. They spread out to search. They were Saint Emperors. Though psychic power was limited, it was a piece of cake for them to search a tunnel. They dashed to the end of a tunnel. An hour later, Lady Li was close to Luli. Blood Fairy had no other choice but to wake Luli up. Buzzing, however, at that moment, Luli suddenly glowed and became transparent. But the next second, he reappeared and became transparent again. Is he about to succeed? Blood Fairy was shocked. She was hesitating. Luli was about to succeed. Previously, he told her that once he mastered the art of concealment, he could go anywhere in the world. This should be the most critical moment for Luli. Whoosh! Blood Fairy was simple-minded. As far as she was concerned, as long as Luli mastered the art of concealment, he would be unstoppable in the world. Now that he was about to succeed, it would not matter even if some powerful warriors found him. Therefore, Blood Fairy decided to buy Luli some more time. As a soul, Blood Fairy could travel underground freely. The stones here were hard. Blood Fairy was not afraid that those powerful warriors could hurt her. It rapidly traversed through the ground, and very soon, it arrived at the passageway in front of Miss Li. It rapidly started to lay out a minor divine imprint, and then continued to lay out more minor divine imprints, one after another. It wanted to delay for as long as possible. What? Lady Li sensed it as soon as she arrived. She glanced around and a cold smile crept onto her face. But she slowed down because it was said that Luli was a master of divine patterns and formations. In this regard, he was no weaker than Aochi of the Red Dragon race. Break! She easily broke through the array and left. She did not send a message to the other two desolate race elders because she wanted to take down Luli herself to prove herself. She wanted to take back the glory that she had lost in her hands. Blood Fairy set up many divine inscriptions, but they were all small ones. She didn't have much time. If she had enough time, she could set up a powerful divine inscription that could easily stall Miss Li for a few days. Master, hurry, hurry, hurry! Blood Fairy kept yelling to herself. Lady Li was only several miles away from Luli. She was moving slowly, but given the current circumstances, it would take her the time for one incense stick to burn at most to reach Luli. Luli was still flashing around. He went invisible and appeared again and again, like a firefly in the night sky. Time moved on. Finally, Blood Fairy could not stay any longer. Lady Li was a few miles away from Luli. She used psychic power to check and found Luli. At this moment, Luli suddenly stopped flashing. His body stopped glowing and he stopped swinging his pickaxe. He stood on the ground like a stone. A dwarf. Lady Li used psychic power to check. She sensed that it was a dwarf at the peak of the fourth tribulation. This dwarf stood there like a piece of wood. He seemed to have lost his mind. Luli. Lady Li squinted. She had made up her mind that this dwarf was Luli. She understood why the hundreds of millions of warriors and scouts, the Heavenly Hound and the Red Dragon, could not find Luli. Luli had mastered the skill of transfiguration. She used psychic power to check. There was no trace of human energy on Luli. He was at the peak of the fourth tribulation, no different from a dwarf. That being said, Lady Li still sensed something unusual. There seemed to be something strange about Luli, as if it could disappear at any time. That was because Luli was studying the skill of concealment. If it were not for the fact that he was certain, he would not have shown this. Now that she was sure that it was Luli, Lady Li was relieved. To her, a warrior of the great Emperor realm was no different from a puny insect. She never thought of sending a message to the other two founding patriarchs of the desolate race. Instead, she was secretly delighted. The entire Yin and Yang universe could not find Luli. So many warriors and scouts of the Heavenly Hound and the Red Dragon could not find him. But she did. She imagined that when she carried Luli back to the Yong'an city, all the powerful warriors would exclaim and sigh. By then, she would truly be famous in the desolate universe. Soon, she walked to Luli. But Luli didn't move. He stood there like a piece of wood. His eyes were blank. He looked like a piece of wood. Buzzing, Lady Li took out the red sword. Luli was weak, but there were many strange things about him. Therefore, Lady Li was still worried. It was better to be safe than sorry. She stood more than 1,000 feet in front of Luli and observed quietly. After the time for more than a dozen breaths, Luli still did nothing. She mocked. "Do you still have to be mysterious at this stage, Luli?" Luli didn't answer her either. He stood there like a stone. A moment later, Lady Li was angered. She snorted and said, "Do you really want me to cut you into 18 pieces before you feel comfortable?" Luli didn't move either. The red sword in Lady Li's hand glowed. A violent energy spread out. The sword flew up and pressed down on Luli. Lady Li released her horrifying energy as well. She shouted coldly, "Luli, I will give you one last chance. Give me the halberd of Emperor Yong and apologize to me on your knees. Then, I will spare your life. Buzzing, right at that moment, Luli finally made a move. Light came back into his eyes. His eyes were cold as ice as he looked at Lady Li at once. Lady Li? He was surprised. He had shut off his senses, so he didn't even know Lady Li was here or what she said. He was woken up by the horrifying energy of the red sword. He took a look and sent a message at once. Blood Fairy, what the heck are you doing? Why didn't you wake me up earlier? Blood Fairy explained. Luli sighed to himself. After all, Blood Fairy was not a human being. She could not understand. It was Luli's fault for not giving her a clear explanation. He had mastered the art of concealment. It was good that Blood Fairy was trying to buy him more time. If he didn't, he would have to spend a long time in the future. But the price he had to pay was that Lady Li was standing right in front of him. He had mastered the art of concealment and skill of transference. But he had been targeted by the enemy. Not even Xiao Emo could survive if he was targeted, let alone Luli. Luli hadn't even mastered the Swift yet. Lady Li was of high status. She must not be the only one nearby. Then, there must be one or two founding members nearby. Therefore, it was unlikely that Luli could get away. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leader's Mobile Version. Chapter 3086. Luli was not in the mood to complain about Blood Fairy. Many thoughts flashed across his mind, but he kept a straight face. He cupped his fists and said, "Greetings, Lady Li. Lady Li, you are very resourceful. I didn't expect you to find me." Lady Li didn't make a move right away, so Luli was not in a hurry to risk his life. Luli wanted to be polite and sound her out. Lady Li sneered. "Don't flatter me. That won't work. Give me the halberd of Emperor Yong and apologize to me on your knees. Then I will spare your life. Or else, Halberd of Emperor Yong? Luli understood now. She must be here for the halberd. He thought about it and said, "I can understand you giving me the halberd of Emperor Yong. But why do you have to kowtow and apologize? I don't remember offending you, Lady Li." Lady Li snorted. "I was about to take the halberd of Emperor Yong. I don't know what you did, but you took it away. You have humiliated me. Shouldn't you apologize?" Luli was surprised. Then he understood. When he asked the tomb watcher to send the halberd of Emperor Yong over, Lady Li almost got it. No wonder she was so angry. "Give me the halberd of Emperor Yong?" Luli was hesitating. Lady Li would let him go if he gave her the halberd of Emperor Yong. He could run away as fast as he could. He might have a chance to escape by using stealth skill. But would the patriarchs of the wild race be willing to let Lady Li go? How many Saint Emperors were in the valley? Luli asked after some thoughts. "Lady Li, I have a question. Apart from you, how many more Saint Emperors are here?" "What? Are you scared?" Lady Li laughed. "2 from the wild race and 1 from the U race. Don't even think about running away. You won't be able to escape. 4 Saint Emperors." Luli grew solemn. Even if he gave Lady Li the halberd of Emperor Yong, would the other 3 Saint Emperors let him go? The chances were slim. Cut the crap. Miss Li's aura surged, and the small red sword in the air also flashed, as if it could turn into a giant dragon at any time. Luli took a few deep breaths and lowered his head. He only thought for the time for a dozen breaths before he made up his mind. He looked up and said, "Lady Li, I apologize to you and I will give you the halberd of Emperor Yong. All I ask is that you spare my life. In the future, I will stay away from you as well." With that said, Luli bowed and spat out his interspatial ring. He took out the halberd of Emperor Yong and held it with both hands. He was extremely humble. Even though Luli didn't kneel, Lady Li was satisfied with his attitude. Lady Li loathed Luli, but she had no quarrel with him. What mattered most was the words of Ancestor Fu. Therefore, the anger in Lady Eli's heart was disappearing bit by bit. Naturally, the killing intent was gone as well. Buzz, she retracted her red flying sword and held it in her hand. He would kill anyone that wanted to kill him, even if it was God himself. He didn't run away as fast as he could. Even though he could go invisible with the stealth skill, the speed was slow. Since he had just mastered it, he could not act rashly. He planned to leave the valley slowly. Someone is here. He moved for dozens of miles. He sensed some movement in the air. He went to a corner and vanished into thin air. Whoosh! A dark shadow dashed by. Some psychic power scanned Luli as well. But that psychic power did not stop. That dark shadow vanished into the distance as well. The stealth skill is impressive. Luli was overjoyed. He flew up at once. At the same time, he turned invisible and tried to move under the stealth skill. He slowed down, but he was still invisible. Once he stopped, he would disappear completely. Just like that, he sneaked his way up. Along the way, he ran into another patriarch of the wild race. He hid in a corner and went on after the patriarch left. After an hour, he arrived at the exit of a mine. There were not many warriors outside. Luli sensed for a while. He didn't stop and sneaked out of the valley. Now that he had captured Lady Eli, he believed that many powerful warriors would come soon. Therefore, the Earth Dragon Valley would become dangerous. He must leave as soon as possible. Please remember this book's domain name. Third Sect Leader's mobile version. Chapter 3087. About an hour after Luli left the valley, the two elders began to panic. This was because they could no longer sense Miss Eli's aura. The desolate race's aura was very unique. Although the rocks in the mine were very strange, they could still sense each other when they were close to each other while running. But now, it had been more than an hour. How fast were they running underground? Yet, they could not sense Miss Eli's aura. This alarmed them. They were the lowest-ranking elders of the desolate race. There was almost no room for them to improve in their lives. Their status in the desolate race was very awkward. They could not reach a high position, nor could they be low. There was no need to trouble them with ordinary matters, but it was useless to trouble them with important matters. Hence, they became Miss Eli's lackeys. They were in charge of protecting and guiding Miss Eli. Miss Eli was not only of high status, but most importantly, her talent was heaven-defying. There had only been 3 people in the desolate race in the past 10,000 years who had reached such a realm at her age. Now, all 3 of them had become one of the strongest figures in the desolate race. Hence, Miss Eli was extremely important to the desolate race. She was 100 times more important than them. That was to say, the desolate race would not feel the pinch even if 100 of them died. However, Miss Eli's death would be a huge loss to the desolate race. As elders of the desolate race, they knew how important Miss Eli was. Why was the desolate race able to dominate this star domain? It was not because of the number of elders, but because of the strongest figures. A single strongest figure could match countless ordinary sacred kings. Now, Miss Eli seemed to have disappeared? If not for the jade talismans in the 2 desolate race elders' hands that had not shattered, they would have sought help from their family. The 2 elders searched at the fastest speed possible. After the time it took for 2 incense sticks to burn, the 2 elders arrived at the spot where Luli had previously been. Her aura disappeared here. One of the elders sensed it and his expression turned extremely serious. The other elder did not sense it. The diamond mark on his forehead lit up as countless scenes flashed past his eyes. His face gradually turned pale. 6th brother, immediately go to Yong'an City to find Lord Qi. Miss has been captured by Luli. The elder bellowed as he shot out. He roared, he hasn't gone far. I'll chase after him. Immediately get Lord Qi and the rest to come. Schwa, the other elder's expression turned ugly. He did not leave immediately, but the diamond mark on his forehead lit up as countless scenes flashed past his eyes. Human scum, you dare to capture the young lady? How lawless! A moment later, the Grand Elder roared and shot out of the mine. The two elders rushed out of the mine one after the other. One of them flew into the distance while the other ran to the elder and yelled, "That human brat kidnapped Our Lady. Quickly gather all the soldiers and search the area. I will teleport to Yong'an City first." There was a teleportation altar in the canyon. After the elder shouted, he rushed into the teleportation altar and teleported to Moon City, where the Moon Clan was. From there, he teleported to Yong'an City. The Yu Clan's elder and the peak Empyrean level warrior were somewhat dumbfounded. They were all stunned, thinking that they had heard wrongly. The peak Empyrean level warrior was stunned for a moment before asking, "Elder, what did that desolate race elder just say? Miss Li was kidnapped by the humans? A Saint Emperor was kidnapped by an emperor?" The Grand Elder frowned. He didn't understand what was going on. Miss Li was taken hostage? Then why didn't the two patriarchs stay with Lady Li and Lu Li? Instead, one of them flew north while the other teleported to Moon City? They had been guarding here all this while, but they didn't see Lu Li and Miss Li come out. There wasn't even a single living thing. Regardless, the two desolate race elders couldn't be lying. That meant that something shocking had happened, something that could wipe out the Yu clan. Send the message. Search the area in a 5 million-mile radius. Send a signal immediately if anything strange happens. The Yu clan elder roared. He then flew south. The desolate race elder had already flown north, so there was no point in him going north. He might as well search south. After flying for dozens of miles, the elder's expression turned uglier. If something really happened to Miss Li here, the desolate race would definitely be enraged. Even ancestor charm might be mobilized. If that happened, the Yu clan would be implicated. Miss Li was the most outstanding genius of the desolate race in the past 10,000 years. Her status in the desolate race was probably not much lower than Elder Chi's. If she were to be killed, the entire desolate race would be shaken. And if the desolate race was shaken, the entire infinite desolate star region would be shaken. The Yu clan elder flew at an extremely fast speed. The Yu clan's army also received the message and began searching the mountains. The desolate race elder quickly searched north. The reason why he searched north was because of the desolate race's sixth sense. He felt that Lu Li had definitely escaped north with Miss Li. However, the Yu clan elder and the tens of thousands of soldiers, as well as the desolate race elder, searched the vicinity for several hours, but they found nothing. They did not see a single unfamiliar figure, much less Lu Li's dwarf form. Phew! The desolate race elder flew back, and he began to violently tear apart the dwarf. There were more than 100,000 dwarves and other slaves, but under the desolate race elder's rage, they were all torn apart. Not a single one was left. Unfortunately, these slaves were all real slaves. None of them were Lu Li in disguise. The desolate race elder did not discover any abnormalities. Large swaths of the campsite were destroyed. Countless severed limbs were scattered throughout the valley. Blood gathered to form a river, making the Earth Dragon Valley look like hell. Wong, a teleportation altar in a castle lit up. Following that, more than 10 figures with powerful auras appeared on the altar. The desolate race elder scanned them with his psychic sense, and his expression turned ashamed. The peak Emperor level commander was still in the valley. His expression changed drastically when he scanned the area. He immediately flew over and knelt on one knee, saying in a deep voice, "Greetings, clan leader. Greetings, lords." The desolate race elder flew over and said with a bitter expression, "Lord Qi, what exactly happened?" Elder Qi did not waste any time. A beam of light lit up between the desolate race elder's eyebrows. Following that, a scene appeared in midair. It was the scene of Lu Li throwing Emperor Yong's halberd over and attacking Miss Li. Then, he took her into the sacred mountain and escaped. Bastard! After Elder Qi finished watching, he gave a backhand slap, sending the desolate race elder flying. He was filled with killing intent as he scanned the powerful warriors behind him and said, "Everyone, Miss Li is Ancestor Fu's favorite junior. Our clan leader also thinks highly of her. If anything were to happen to her and our clan leader is enraged, you can imagine the consequences. So please immediately mobilize your troops and powerful warriors. Even if you have to dig through the surrounding land for billions of miles, you must find this human and Miss Li." Yes! In front of Senior Elder Qi stood a group of sacred emperors. Many of them were the patriarchs of the 12 large clans of the Yin-Yang world. Their expressions were extremely ugly. If the desolate race's patriarch was enraged, their clans would probably be in big trouble. *T. Chu clan leader roared in anger. He thought that Miss Li could easily find and take down Lu Li. He did not expect that after finding him, he would not be able to take down Lu Li. Instead, he would be taken down by Lu Li. Please remember this book's domain name. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3088. The abduction of the desolate race's little princess, Miss Li, had shaken the Yin-Yang world, followed by the desolate race, followed by the entire infinite desolate star region. If Lu Li's previous reputation had only risen, then this time, he had truly become famous. Of course, this wasn't entirely a good reputation, it was more of a curse. The desolate race was hated by many large races, but they were also supported by many small races. As the rules were not set by the desolate race, a small race would probably end up as a vassal of a large race. All their territory would be annexed by the large race, leaving them with no place to live. The desolate race had the title of royalty in the infinite region. Hence, the desolate race's princess was naturally the princess of the infinite region. Now that the princess was being held hostage by a human race Tharch that came out of nowhere, many warriors from the smaller races were enraged. The large races hated Lu Li too. If the desolate race were to be enraged, the entire infinite region would be in turmoil. Who knew what would happen? If it were not for the fact that the Heaven Hound race and the Red Dragon race were after Lu Li, none of this would have happened. The 12 races of the Yin and Yang universe hated Lu Li to the core. The desolate race's clan king did not make a move, nor did the prestige ancestor. However, the desolate race's grand elder had come. He had personally led more than 10 experts through the void, rushing towards the Yin-Yang world at the fastest speed possible. The desolate race's clan leader was the highest authority. Below him were a few old fogies who were infinitely close to the great perfection realm. Below them was the Grand Elder. The race king and the patriarchs did not care much about it. The Grand Elder could be said to be the current manager of the desolate race, as well as the representative of the desolate race. He was also the enforcer of the desolate domain. Upon hearing that this person was dispatched, all the major clans of the Yin and Yang worlds went crazy. They mobilized hundreds of millions of troops and surrounded the Earth Dragon Canyon. All the powerful warriors were mobilized. They dug deep into the ground to search for Lu Li. The Earth Dragon Valley had been blasted open by many powerful warriors, creating an abyss in case Lu Li could hide in there. All the Saint Emperors from the Tiango tribe, the Crimson Dragon tribe, and the Yin and Yang world had arrived. There were more than 100 of them, and they were all spread out to search the area. Once he felt that there was something suspicious, he would launch a few rounds of carpet attacks. It had been confirmed that Lu Li had cultivated Xiao Mo's skill of transfiguration and skill of stealth. Otherwise, he could not have stayed hidden for so long, nor could he have escaped from the Valley of Earth Dragons under the nose of the Yu race. As such, they could only resort to the dumbest method, which was to attack a few suspicious places to force Luli out. Of course, these were all methods of searching blindly. They couldn't possibly search the entire area, could they? There were still many small cities nearby. Those small cities were the most heavily guarded. All the cities had activated their barriers, and no martial artists were allowed to enter or leave. The people in the city started to investigate, not letting any martial artist escape. This caused the hundreds of cities in the vicinity to complain bitterly. 1 month. It had been a whole month, but they had gained nothing. Recently, Grand Elder Chi's temper had become worse and worse. The 2 Grand Elders who followed Miss Li were about to go crazy. Grand Elder was about to come, and they didn't have the face to see Grand Elder. If they couldn't find it in a month, that meant that they might not be able to find it in half a year, or even 10 years. An area with a radius of hundreds of millions of miles had been searched for more than a dozen times. Many places that could hide were blasted out. Many valleys collapsed, and some dangerous places were flattened directly. There were signs of attacks in many places. Warriors from all the cities had checked several times, but they couldn't find Luli. Not even a clue. A group of Saint Emperors gathered together, believing that Luli must have gone beyond the hundreds of millions of miles. If he did, then it would be troublesome to find him. The Yin and Yang universe was a vast place. It was too difficult to carry out such a thorough search. There were too many races in the Yin and Yang universe. It was almost impossible to find Luli. They had to wait for the Grand Elder of the Wild Race to come. This Grand Elder was not very close to the consummate realm, but he was a powerful warrior nonetheless. Maybe he could find Luli. Of course, Luli was still in the Yin and Yang universe. As a matter of fact, he could fly up into the void. But it was too strenuous to hide in the void for a long time. Back in the days, Xiao Mo used to hide in deserted rocks in the void. If he could hide in the void, once there was a fluctuation in space, he would be found out easily. Luli was indeed hundreds of millions of miles away. After he escaped from the valley, he flew toward the north at first. Then, he changed directions 3 times and in the end, headed toward the west. Armies of the U race had sealed off the area, but Luli had learned the skill of stealth. If he was still found by the warriors, then Xiao Mo's skill would be useless. By the time Qi mobilized many warriors to surround the area, Luli was already hundreds of millions of miles away. The skill of stealth was powerful. What was more, Luli could use the trace of Tao to sense fluctuations in space. Once a powerful warrior came near, he would hide himself. Therefore, he had no worries on his way. Xiao Mo used the 3 skills to dominate the world. Many major races could not find him after so many years. Not a single warrior had seen his face. That was a testament to the power of the 3 skills. Luli did not stop after he was hundreds of millions of miles away. He ran toward the west. He knew very well that the Earth Dragon Valley was dangerous. The further he could go, the better. Over the past month, he had traveled hundreds of millions of miles. He did not go to any cities. He could change into any race, but there would be traces left behind. He had offended the wild race. At the moment, the entire Yin and Yang universe was looking for him. Who knew what strange rules had been set up in the cities? Once he went to the cities and exposed himself, powerful warriors would track him down. That would be the end for him. He had arrived at a place that many powerful warriors could not imagine. He was near the Yong'an city, under a river on the outskirts of the city. He entered the holy mountain. The holy mountain was like a pebble lying in the river, mixed with the pebbles. There was no fluctuation in the holy mountain. Even if some warriors were to fly by, they would not notice. Luli planned to stay here for a while, and then find a chance to leave the Yin and Yang universe. It was too difficult to leave the Yin and Yang universe. Also, there was another reason why he was here. Lady Li was restless. Lady Li was trapped in the pond. Blood Fairy had sealed up the pond with the runes of the holy mountain. But Lady Li had been attacking continuously. She had lost the red sword and her interspatial ring was taken off by Luli. That being said, she was a Saint King. Under the continuous attacks, the holy mountain would be drained of energy. Something might go wrong. Luli sat under the tree next to the pond. He used psychic power to check on Lady Li, who was attacking wildly. He said, "Lady Li, if you do not stay still, I am afraid that I will lose control and do something you will regret for the rest of your life. Come on, come down." Lady Li had been able to locate Luli with psychic power. She had been hurling insults and threats at Luli for a long time, but Luli ignored her. Now that Luli had confirmed that they could talk, Lady Li stopped. She sneered and said, "Luli, do you dare to come down? Do you dare to let me out? If you don't, then you are a coward. Make me regret for the rest of my life? Come on, I am waiting. I want to see how you will make me regret." Luli snorted. His voice turned cold and there was a trace of evil in it. He said, "If I can seal your soul once, I can do it again. If you keep talking, believe it or not, I will seal your soul and execute you on the spot. I heard that females of the wild race are not allowed to marry. I am afraid I will be the first male from another race to have a taste of a female of the wild race." P.S. 4 more chapters tomorrow and the day after. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3089. Luli's words made Lady Li tremble. It was true that her soul had been sealed by Luli once, or else she wouldn't have been kidnapped. If Luli could do it once, he could do it again. Once a person's soul was sealed, they would lose control of their body. Even if hundreds of holes were poked in her body, she wouldn't feel anything. She had a powerful armor. The thing was, the armor wouldn't be revealed. It would only protect her body when Luli hurt her. If her soul was sealed by Luli, then Luli could do whatever he wanted to her body. By then, her chastity would be ruined and her life would be ruined. Even if she didn't commit suicide, she would go crazy. Luli was tempted. He had been demonized and his desires were very strong. Girls of the wild race were not allowed to marry. Men of other races wouldn't have the chance to have sex with girls of the wild race. If he slept with Lady Li, then many men of the desolate star region would go crazy with jealousy. In the end, reason won over Luli. He knew he couldn't mess around with this precious lady. He could kidnap her, but he couldn't destroy her chastity or kill her. Otherwise, he would become the archenemy of the wild race. Even the family leader of the wild race would go after him in person. Luli had asked around and he knew about the existence of Reverend Ancestor. He knew that Xiao Mo's death had something to do with Reverend Ancestor. It must be because of Reverend Ancestor that Lady Li could find him. Therefore, if he acted recklessly, Reverend Ancestor wouldn't let him go, let alone the family leader of the wild race. Even the Middle King realm would be destroyed. Kidnapping Lady Li would only damage her reputation and the wild race would be affected. If he destroyed Lady Li's chastity or killed her, then he would be crossing the line. He would have to fight to the death with the wild race. Lady Li quieted down. Luli said, "Stay here. When I am completely safe, I will let you go. If you continue to make trouble, then don't blame me for doing something beastly." Lady Li pouted and said with a humph, "Luli, you cannot run away. Our forefather has amazing skills. He can figure out where you are easily. You hiding in the Earth Dragon Valley was predicted by him. I don't think it will be long before he comes. By then, you will be dead for sure. If you let me go now, he probably won't do anything. It will be up to your luck if you can escape my pursuit." Luli smiled and said, "Lady Li, do you know that a senior patriarch of the Red Dragon race has passed away? He was killed by me. Since I can kill a Saint Emperor, killing you will be easy. After sealing your soul, I can easily poison you to death. If your ancestor dares to act recklessly, I'll drag you down with me." Ao Yun? Poison? Miss Eli's expression changed slightly. The Crimson Dragon clan had indeed lost a Saint Emperor in the tomb of Emperor Yong. That Saint Emperor had been blasted to pieces, but his head had been poisoned. As they passed by, they could easily sense that his head was rapidly corroding away. However, the poison was released by Luli. How could a warrior of the Emperor realm have the power to kill a Saint Emperor? This human is very strange. On second thought, this overlord-ranked being could easily seal her soul and even trap her body under this lake. Such a strange thing had already happened, so it was understandable even if something else had happened. One couldn't use common sense to look at this human race Emperor stage, nor could one treat him as an ordinary Emperor stage. Miss Eli stopped talking and calmed down. In any case, she had already been kidnapped and her reputation was already bad. What was the point of being angry, threatening, and making a scene? Apart from infuriating Luli, there was no point. Instead, it might make things worse. When our ancestor comes, I'll see how you die. Miss Eli snorted to herself. Then, she sat down at the bottom of the lake and waited quietly. She believed that Fu Zhu would come and the desolate race would send many powerful warriors. Even if Luli had supernatural powers, he would still end up dead in the end. Luli was thinking about this as well. The desolate race was too strong. What's more, the desolate race's innate skills were freakish. Reverend Ancestor was a threat to Luli. If Reverend Ancestor were to stay here, he might not even know when many powerful warriors would come and surround him. Go? Where could he go now? The Yin and Yang universe seemed to be a large place, but if the enemy could track his location, then it would be pointless no matter where he hid. Or should I leave and see if the enemy can find me? Luli thought for a moment and decided to do an experiment. He asked Blood Fairy to build some obscure runes here, and then he left and flew toward the northwest. He flew for half a day and found another secluded place. It was a lake. He found an underground river at the bottom of the lake. He asked Blood Fairy to build a one-way teleportation formation in the river. He sat near the teleportation formation and Blood Fairy built another rune at the only entrance. If the desolate race could find him, then he would decide what to do next. If he couldn't find it, then he would stay here and cultivate for a few years. Master. Over a month later, Blood Fairy's message woke Luli up. The divine inscription I built in the river was destroyed. A powerful warrior broke it open. Oh! Luli opened his eyes all of a sudden. He felt lucky, but at the same time, he was surprised. According to Miss Eli, Fu Zhu could easily locate him. How come it took the desolate race more than a month to find the river? Did Fu Zhu not take any action? Luli breathed in relief. It seemed that he still had a chance to escape. Either way, he had to try for a while. The desolate race was strong, but they were not omnipotent. Luli asked Blood Fairy to make some arrangements, and then he took the teleportation formation and left. A few thousand miles later, Luli used skill of transfiguration to alter his temperament and race. He flew to the west. This time, he chose a dangerous place where there were many powerful beasts. Luli used stealth to sneak into the depth of the mountains. If the enemy came, the beasts here would be alerted first. Chief Patriarch, apart from some runes, there is nothing else. At the northern suburb of the City of Eternal Peace, a group of powerful warriors were standing in midair. A patriarch of the desolate race had searched everywhere. After a round of attacks in countless places near the great river, he came up to report. In midair, a burly man with purple hair stood with his hands clasped behind his back. His eyes were as cold and emotionless as an eagle's. After he heard the report, he did not say anything. Instead, he closed his eyes. The diamond mark between his eyebrows glowed. A moment later, he flew to the west and said coldly, he went to the northwest. Let's go. After flying for half a day, the chief patriarch of the desolate race arrived at the lake with a group of powerful warriors. He closed his eyes and sensed for a moment. He waved his hand. More than a dozen Saint Emperors rushed down and began to search the surroundings. Soon, the lake began to shake. Following that, many places around it collapsed. The lake water splashed and seeped into the ground. Soon, the lake turned into a depression. Whoosh! After the time for one incense stick to burn, more than a dozen patriarchs flew up. Patriarch Chi cupped his fists and said, "Chief Patriarch, that punk did stay underground. But he built a one-way teleportation formation and has left." Chief Patriarch closed his eyes and sensed again. A moment later, he said, "Keep going. I want to see where he can go." Please remember this book's original domain name. Third Sect Leader's mobile version. Chapter 3090. The Grand Elder of the Desolate Race had come personally, but he did not get the Yin-Yang world experts to help track him. All he did was lead the Desolate Race's elders in pursuit. The Yin-Yang world experts were puzzled. Why did the prestige ancestor of the Desolate Race not take action? They had never heard of the Desolate Race's Grand Elder having the ability to track. If the prestige ancestor were to take action, a simple divination would be enough to find Luli. When that happened, he could immediately cleanse the Desolate Race's humiliation. Miss Li was from the prestige ancestor's lineage, and she was the prestige ancestor's favorite junior, so why did he not take action? The Yin-Yang world experts did not know. Although the Desolate Race's Grand Elder did not show much ability in terms of tracking, he was proficient in countless heaven-defying divine techniques, so he knew a little about tracking spells. He was not tracking Luli. Luli's aura could change at will, so tracking him was useless. He was tracking Miss Li's aura. Although Miss Li was imprisoned in the sacred mountain and trapped by the divine runes, the Desolate Race's aura was very special. The Grand Elder could still vaguely track her. He could not divine it, so he could only track her. As long as Miss Li was not dead, he could continue tracking her. Actually, the Grand Elder did not understand why the prestige ancestor did not take action. If the prestige ancestor took action, it would not be so troublesome. Even without divine it, Miss Li had a few sacred weapons personally refined by the prestige ancestor. The prestige ancestor just needed to sense the sacred weapons to find Miss Li. Before coming, the Grand Elder had visited the prestige ancestor, but the prestige ancestor was in reclusive training and did not meet anyone. The Grand Elder had no choice but to take action personally. A puny human dared to kidnap the Desolate Race's princess. This was the greatest provocation to the Desolate Race. It was trampling on the Desolate Race's dignity. If Luli was not killed, the other large races or old demons would dare to provoke the Desolate Race in the future. Then, how could the Desolate Race dominate the infinite Desolate Star region? As they continued tracking, they soon found the perilous land Luli was in. The fierce beasts here had suffered a calamity, and all of them had been massacred. After searching the entire mountain range, and confirming that there was nothing, the Grand Elder led a group of experts to continue the pursuit. Luli had imprisoned Miss Li in the sacred mountain, so her aura was very faint. If she had not stayed in a place for too long, there would not be a strong aura. The Grand Elder was unable to track or sense her. Luli was very vigilant. Every time the formation he left behind was touched, he would move to another place. Therefore, the Grand Elder and the others could only follow behind him. He kept changing hiding spots, but he was forced to move after hiding for at most half a day. 2 months had passed, and he had already changed dozens of places. He was starting to get a headache. There was always a mighty figure tailing him. If this carried on, he would be discovered sooner or later. The Desolate Race would definitely send mighty figures ahead to intercept and search for him. Although he had a divine concealment technique, how could he continue hiding? Leave the Yin and Yang world. A glint of ruthlessness rose in Lu Li's eyes. He felt it was no longer safe to stay in the yin and yang universe. He wanted to leave the yin and yang universe and go to other universes to see if the pursuers could follow him. His body shot up into the sky and once again changed his appearance. When he exited the yin and yang world, his body had become transparent. His speed had also slowed down, and he easily flew out of the yin and yang world. There is indeed an army blockade. Outside the yin-yang world, he could sense countless battleships. Those battleships were crossing each other, and countless divine senses were scanning the surroundings. There were no blind spots. These were the armies of the 12 major races, and they had sealed off the entire yin and yang world. Luli had a divine concealment technique, so these average soldiers naturally could not discover him. After spending more than 2 days, he escaped from the vicinity of the yin and yang world. After confirming that there were no battleships nearby, he took out the sacred mountain and flew away quickly. 3 days after Lu Li's escape, the Grand Elder led the mighty figures of the desolate race in pursuit. The Grand Elder stood in the void and sensed for a moment. His expression turned ugly. He pondered for a moment and said to a Grand Elder, "Go back and meet Ancestor Fu. Tell him that it is difficult for me to catch up to that human. Get him to take action. I will continue the pursuit." Yes. The Grand Elder returned to the yin and yang world, and was prepared to be teleported back to his race to meet Ancestor Fu. The other Grand Elders looked at the Grand Elder. Grand Elder Qi asked in puzzlement, "Grand Elder, with your astounding abilities, are you really unable to track that human kid?" "Difficult." The Grand Elder sighed. "He already knows that we can track him down, so he has been fleeing. He has cultivated divine concealment and skill of transfiguration, so he is very fast. I don't know what method he used to hide Lier's energy, so it is very difficult for me to sense him. Even if I can barely sense him, I will only be eating his dust if I follow him. He has been constantly changing his route, so it is difficult to intercept him. What is more, he is proficient in divine concealment. Even if you go ahead and intercept him, you will not be able to find him." Luli was fast. Every time the Grand Elder chased after him, he would need some time to sense him before he could continue. In this case, the Grand Elder would always be behind Luli. Only when Luli stopped somewhere could the Grand Elder catch up. Apart from the Grand Elder, it was pointless for the other Grand Elders to intercept Luli. Luli had the skill of transfiguration. The void was vast and boundless. It was almost impossible to find Luli. Therefore, the Grand Elder thought of asking Ancestor Fu. As long as Ancestor Fu was willing to take action, it would be too easy to take down Luli. It would be too easy for Ancestor Fu to kill Luli. A patriarch was sent back and the Grand Elder went on with a group of Saint Emperors. Luli did not stop. He flew forward quickly, using the trace of Tao at all times. As soon as there was a fluctuation in space, he would come out immediately. Then, he would use divine concealment to hide. He would only go on when the battleships or scouts left. Luli went into more than a dozen universes, but he would only wander around and then come out. With divine concealment, he felt he could go anywhere in the world. No warrior could find him in any universes. But he could not shake off the pursuers. He would stop at some deserted rocks in the void or in the more than a dozen universes. He would set up some traps, but after a few days those traps would be triggered. It meant that the pursuers were still behind him, and he could not shake them off. Has Ancestor Fu come in person to hunt me down? Luli was troubled. He could not run for the rest of his life, could he? If he dared to stop, the pursuers would be here soon. He did not know that Ancestor Fu did not take action. It was just that the Grand Elder was following Lady Li. Luli thought it was the powerful warriors of the desolate race that could track him down. If he had known, he would have let Lady Li go. Where should I go? The infinite star region was huge. Luli could go anywhere, but there was no place that was safe. The desolate race would chase after him no matter where he went. Therefore, the entire infinite star region was not safe. Return to the third heaven? That would bring endless disasters to the third heaven. Luli pondered for a long time and thought of a place. It was the endless ruins of God. There were many powerful warriors in the endless ruins of God. There were many saint kings. If the powerful warriors of the desolate race dared to chase after him, they would definitely alarm the powerful warriors in the endless ruins of God. When that happened, there would definitely be a huge battle. However, the endless ruins of God was a little far. Who knew what would happen on the way there? To the second star region. Luli thought of another star region. He could see the immortal palace there, which meant that there were many big races there. The desolate race was strong, but they would not dare to mess around in that star region. After all, it was not the desolate race's territory. Go! Luli had nowhere to go. The infinite star region was no longer safe. He could only fly out of the star region. Please remember this book's domain name. Third Sect Leader's mobile version. Chapter 3091. Luli flew out of the universe. He had been changing his directions, but the general route remained the same. Chief Patriarch mobilized armies and powerful warriors to stop Luli. But it was a vast void and Luli could use stealth skill. How could he be found? During the 5 months, Luli had gone to dozens of universes. He would leave after making some arrangements. Chief Patriarch was tired of the chase, but what else could he do? He had to keep going. However, Chief Patriarch did receive some good news. The Patriarch that went back saw the Ancestor of Prestige. The Ancestor of Prestige was on the move as well. But he went alone and did not meet up with the rest. Either way, Chief Patriarch was sure that Luli was doomed when the Ancestor of Prestige came. The Ancestor of Prestige was skilled in divination. Luli's realm was not high, so it was easy for the Ancestor of Prestige to find him. As long as Luli's position was known, it would be a piece of cake for the Ancestor of Prestige to kill Luli. But now, Chief Patriarch was at the edge of the universe. If he went any further, he would be out of the universe. If he left the universe, it would be even more difficult to track him down. The desolate race had an ancestral rule. Under normal circumstances, the desolate race was not allowed to leave the universe. Though he did not know why the ancestors left this rule, there must be a reason for it. Chief Patriarch could only count on the Ancestor of Prestige. Since the Ancestor of Prestige was on the move, he would not let Luli leave the universe with Lady Li. Lady Li was the Ancestor of Prestige's favorite junior. After tracking for a few more days, the Grand Elder led a group of Grand Elders and arrived near the mist. Once they left this mist, they would be outside the star field. Chief Patriarch and the other patriarchs were frustrated. Luli must have escaped. Their pursuit might end in failure. All of a sudden, Chief Patriarch's eyes narrowed. He looked to the northwest. He saw a figure and sensed the unique energy of the desolate race. The other patriarchs sensed it as well. One of them shouted, "It is the Ancestor of Prestige." Chief Patriarch had already sensed it. He waved his hand and the battleship flew away. Soon, they arrived behind the dark figure. A group of powerful warriors of the desolate race flew toward the old man. That old man was wearing a black robe. He put his hands behind his back and looked out of the halo. His eyes were as deep as the sea. He did not look at Chief Patriarch and the others. "Greetings, Ancestor Fu." The group of experts bowed. Ancestor Prestige nodded slightly but did not turn his head. He continued to look into the distance with a complicated expression. The group of Doyens didn't dare to speak. Grand Doyen thought for a moment and asked, "Ancestor Fu, you are here?" Fu Zhu appeared here alone and looked out of the circle of light. This was very strange. Could Fu Zhu have been waiting for them here? Ancestor Fu didn't say anything. Instead, he stared into the distance for a long time. After waiting for the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, he sighed and said, "The young eagle finally has to spread its wings. If it doesn't ascend to the 9 heavens, it will never know how to fly." Grand Elder and the rest looked at each other, not understanding. Without waiting for Grand Elder to ask, Ancestor Fu explained, "I'm here to send Lear off. I'm afraid it will take a long time for her to come back, or maybe she will never come back." Ancestor Fu's words made Grand Elder and the others' hearts tremble. Grand Elder asked, "Ancestor Fu, why didn't you save Lear?" With Ancestor Fu's ability, Grand Elder believed that it would be easy for him to save her. But Fu Zhu was here to send Miss Li off? Naturally, Grand Elder and the rest couldn't understand. "When Lear was born, I did a divination for her. The first 1,000 years of her life would be smooth sailing, but when she was 1,000 years old, there would be a great calamity. If she can survive this calamity, she will rise rapidly. If she can't, she will fall into the abyss forever." Ancestor Fu sighed and said, "It seems like this great calamity is in the hands of this human." Calamity? Grand Elder frowned slightly and thought about it. He still didn't understand and said, "Since Ancestor Fu knows it's a calamity, why didn't you help her? With your ability, it shouldn't be difficult to help her survive this calamity, right?" "It's not difficult," Ancestor Fu said, "but the young eagle has to learn to spread its wings. We can help her once, but we can't help her forever. She has exceptional talent, but if she doesn't grow up, how can she become a supreme expert in the future? How can she hold up the sky for our race?" "That's true." Grand Elder thought about it and felt that it made sense. Miss Li had been protected by the race since she was young and hadn't suffered any hardships. Although her realm was high, her battle prowess was still very low. So what if she had reached the peak of Saint Emperor? Even a powerful Saint Emperor could kill her easily, right? "Don't worry." Ancestor Fu waved his hand and said, "I have foreseen that she will have a great opportunity on this trip. If she can survive, she will soar to the top. Reaching the absolute completion will not be a dream. This human's destiny is strange. Maybe he is Lear's lucky star." A Grand Elder and the others all understood now. It was not that Ancestor Fu couldn't take down Lu Li and save Miss Li. He let Lu Li go on purpose because he thought Lu Li might be a lucky star. Not only would Miss Li be fine, she might even have a great opportunity to soar to the peak of the Saint Realm. Any warrior at the peak of the Saint Realm could protect the race for hundreds of thousands of years. Their family patriarch was at the peak of the Saint Realm. Because of their family patriarch, the wild race had been dominating the infinite region for over 200,000 years. But their family patriarch was almost at the end of his lifespan. At most, he had 10,000 years left. But no one in the race showed signs of reaching the peak. Miss Li and the others had high hopes for her. To reach the Saint Emperor realm at 1,000 years old, Miss Li was the most talented in the wild race in the last 10,000 years. That was why the wild race had sent 2 patriarchs to protect her. Hearing that something had happened to her, Grand Elder came immediately. How could the other disciples have such treatment? Sigh. The big elder's face was filled with worry. He did not know where this human had popped out from. Not only that, he was extremely sinister, and had even cultivated the Shao demon's heaven-revolting skill. He was said to only have the strength of an emperor. But he snatched the halberd of Emperor Yong? He escaped the pursuit of many powerful warriors of the heavenly dog race and the red dragon race. Ancestor Fu said that this human's destiny was strange. It seemed that it was really strange. Miss Li had never suffered since she was young. It could be said that she was inexperienced. What would happen if a girl was kidnapped by a human and left the infinite region? Would she be abused and tortured by this human male? Would she go crazy? Would she die? Thinking of this, Grand Elder's mouth twitched. Especially since Miss Li was a delicate beauty. If she was defiled by that evil human, she would definitely commit suicide based on her personality. Ancestor Fu, why don't we send a few patriarchs to chase after him? Grand Elder was still worried. Ancestor Fu shook his head and said, I know what you are worried about. I am even more worried than you. But this is Li Er's fate. Let's not bother about this matter. Go back. When Li returns, I believe her combat strength will not be weaker than yours. Ancestor Fu looked into the distance one last time before he turned and flew far away. With a single step, he appeared tens of thousands of miles away. He sent a final message. If Li Er dies, I will personally chase after him. No matter where he escapes to, I will cut him into pieces. Please remember this book's domain name. Third Sect Masters Mobile Version. Chapter 3092. Lu did not let his guard down after he left the Infinite Star region. He flew as fast as he could and entered several void, deserted universes. He stayed there for a while and made some arrangements. He was delighted to find that the pursuers seemed to have stopped. None of his arrangements were touched. Of course, he did not stop. He continued to fly the Holy Mountain to the Second Star region. This flight lasted for a few months. During this period of time, he once again entered many places and stopped at each place. He even left behind his aura and set up many divine inscriptions that were both visible and hidden. But when he arrived at the Second Star region, none of his arrangements were touched. Did the pursuers really stop? Why did you stop? Lu could not figure it out. He was tempted. Maybe he could go back to the Central King universe and have a look. In the end, he resisted the urge. He did not want to bring disaster to the third heaven. If the powerful warriors of the wild race were to follow him to the third heaven, it would be a nightmare for the third heaven. All the humans related to him would be wiped out. If the powerful warriors of the wild race were violent, the entire human race could be wiped out. I wonder if Sacred Ancestor Yuan and the others are dead. Lu was worried. The four-armed race was after Sacred Ancestor Tian and the others. The Infinite Star region was a mess. It would not be easy for the Saint Emperors to live in peace. Lu could not go back. He could only pray. I will stay in this star region for a while. If the powerful warriors of the wild race don't come after me, I will sneak back. Lu made up his mind. He flew toward the halo and soon disappeared into the haze. There had been some commotion in the third heaven recently. It had been a few years since the Devil Abyss had retreated. However, the Devil Abyss still hadn't made any move. All the Devil Abyss soldiers had retreated to the Holy Devil Nest and hadn't made any movement. Human scouts had been searching the continents but found no abyss of demons, not even one scout. At first, the human race was afraid to move. But recently, many families had begun to send out scouts to investigate. They could not help it. If nothing had happened to the abyss of demons, it would not be so strange. After so many years, even if there was some trouble in the demonic abyss, Divine Ancestor Yuan and the others would have already settled it, right? The demonic abyss had an absolute advantage, so they didn't need to use any tricks or schemes against the humans. So, the only explanation was that something big had happened in the demonic abyss. Their base was no longer safe, and their experts had all returned. Such a heaven-sent opportunity could not help but move the hearts of the powerhouses. If they could break through the Holy Devil's lair, they would be able to chase the demon abyss army back. Then, they could destroy or seal the passageway, and the human race would be considered to have survived the Great Calamity. Recently, many Emperor-ranked experts had come to request to fight. Both Immortal Tianzue and Saint Emperor Xiaoyao were tempted. If they wasted this opportunity and gave the demon abyss a chance to make a comeback, they would be the sinners of the human race. Why don't I bring some men to give it a try? Saint Sovereign Unfettered suggested, and the group of Monarch rankers immediately requested for a battle. Tao Master Sky Crime thought about it and finally agreed. After all, the demonic abyss was too quiet. Spiritual Master Tianzue wouldn't feel at ease if he didn't check it out. Saint Sovereign Unfettered led more than 10 Monarch rankers and set off. Close to 10,000 scouts also went to the North Plains continent to monitor the situation there. More than a month later, Saint Sovereign Unfettered led a group of Monarch rankers and arrived outside the Holy Devil's lair. Once they appeared, there was a change in the Holy Devil's lair. Countless demon abyss army surged out. There were also many demon supremacies and a demon ancestor hidden in the army, ready to launch a sneak attack at any time. Saint Sovereign Unfettered and the others fought for a while before they all retreated. Many Monarch rankers turned pale with fright. They thought that the demon abyss army would move out again and sweep through the third heaven. Saint Sovereign Unfettered, however, was overjoyed. From the reaction of the demon abyss, he felt that the demon abyss army was only putting on a strong front. Otherwise, they would not have such an intense reaction. He led a group of Monarch rankers and attacked continuously. Every time they would retreat after a while. There was indeed a demon ancestor here. It was Saint Ancestor Kong who had stayed behind. However, after so many battles, only this demon ancestor appeared. The other demon ancestors were nowhere to be seen. After attacking for tens of times, Saint Sovereign Unfettered led all the Monarch rankers and retreated. Then, he immediately sent scouts back to ask Tao Master Sky Crime to bring all the formidable martial artists and the army over. They were to prepare for a large-scale attack and chase the demon abyss army back. Get ready to retreat. Saint Ancestor Kong, who was in the Holy Devil Nest, waved his hand helplessly after Saint Sovereign Unfettered left. He ordered the demon abyss army to retreat. He knew that Saint Sovereign Unfettered had already found out about the real situation. The next attack would definitely be with the strength of the third heaven. He, a Saint Ancestor, would not be able to withstand it. Saint Ancestor Yuan and the others had disappeared without any news. This made Saint Ancestor Kong feel hopeless. Most importantly, the sacred mountain had not been found. Luli had taken drastic measures to deal with the demon abyss. The other Saint Emperors were not coming back. He, one Saint Emperor, could not withstand 2 Saint Emperors from the human race. What was he doing here? Now, not only did he not think about taking down the Middle King domain, but he was also worried that Tao Master Sky Crime and Saint Sovereign Unfettered would lead their troops to attack the demon abyss. Many demon supremacies could not accept this. This time, they were about to take over the third heaven. They did not expect to return in defeat. Even the sacred mountain had been taken away. Their saint ancestors were also missing, and they did not know if they were still alive. Many demon supremacies wanted to attack the Ziyang continent and massacre half the human race there. It would not matter even if they died there. However, Saint Ancestor Kong suppressed their impulses. The demon abyss was in a bad situation now. It was better to preserve some strength. Countless demon abyss soldiers retreated quickly. By the time Immortal Tianzue arrived with his army, the Holy Devil's Nest had become an empty nest. There were only tens of thousands of demon abyss soldiers patrolling the perimeter. All the demon abyss soldiers inside had fled back to the demon abyss. The passage connecting them had been destroyed by Saint Ancestor Kong. In order to open up this passage, the demon abyss had spent hundreds of thousands of years and paid a huge price. Now the demon abyss had destroyed it? While Immortal Tianzue was overjoyed, he could not figure it out. Tens of thousands of demon abyss soldiers were killed. Not a single one was spared. In addition, Immortal Tianzue and Divine Emperor Xiaoyao personally explored the entire third layer of heaven. They sealed all the places where the passageway might appear. The passageway on the chilly winter continent was completely destroyed. The catastrophe of the third heaven had been overcome. The news spread to the Ziyang continent. The entire Ziyang continent was immersed in a sea of joy. Cheers of the human race could be heard everywhere. Countless people were shouting the names of immortal Tianzue, Saint Sovereign Unfettered, and Lu Li. Of course, more people were in a daze. The victory seemed to have come too easily. It was so easy that they felt it was unreal. The third heaven was on the verge of destruction. However, things changed. The Demon Abyss army suddenly retreated. Now, all of them had retreated back to the Demon Abyss. The entire Ziyang continent was rejoicing. However, the backyard of the Lu family was devoid of joy. Everyone in the Lu family was worried about one thing: the passage connecting to the Demon Abyss had been destroyed. How could Lu Li come back? P.S. Chapter 4. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3093. Outside the second galaxy was another formation of illusion that Lu Li could not solve. He wandered around for a long time and transmitted the situation to Blood Fairy. Blood Fairy spent half a month to solve it. Lu Li traveled for a day and finally arrived at this region of universe. Looking at the countless stars in front of him, Lu Li didn't go in rashly. He found a piece of deserted rock nearby and sat on it. He used psychic power to check on Lady Li, who was in the Holy Mountain, and asked, "Lady Li, do you know the situation in this region? This star area?" Miss Li was stunned. Then, a trace of panic appeared in her eyes. She asked in a low voice, "You left Infinite Region and went to another region?" "Yes," Lu Li answered. "The Infinite Star Region is the territory of the wild race. It is only a matter of time before the wild race takes it over. I don't want to die, so I have to stay far away from the Infinite Star Region." The panic in Lady Li's eyes grew stronger. Actually, she was panicking because the powerful warriors of the wild race had not come to save her after such a long time. How powerful was the august ancestor? If he could save her, he would have done so a long time ago. Lu Li had left the Infinite Star Region. The wild race had a rule that members of the wild race were not allowed to leave the Infinite Star Region unless there were special circumstances. The reason why the powerful warriors of the wild race could not save her after such a long time was probably because they could not leave the Infinite Star Region. In other words, the powerful warriors of the wild race would not come to save her. She would always be Lu Li's prisoner. She would come to a strange galaxy with no family and no one to help her. She would still be a prisoner. Nobody could tell what would happen to her in the future. It was still unknown what kind of inhumane treatment she would be subjected to. On this thought, Lady Li trembled. Her mind was filled with fear. She was a saint emperor. But at the end of the day, she was just a girl who had not gone through many hardships. She was a flower that grew up in a greenhouse, a child that had not really grown up. Since Lady Li did not say anything, Lu Li's tone turned cold. He said, "What? Are you mute? Don't piss me off. Don't blame me if I do something bad." Lady Li came back to her senses. After a moment of silence, she asked, "What does this galaxy look like? See for yourself." Lu Li asked Blood Fairy to undo some of the runes. Lady Li looked out along the pond. She saw a beautiful starry sky, very beautiful. She stared at the starry sky for half an hour before asking, "This star sector is near Infinite Region, right?" "Yes." Lu Li nodded. Lady Li said, "I have heard about this star region from my forefather. It is called the Chaotic Star Region, the most chaotic of the 8. This place is very dangerous. I advise you to leave this place. With your strength, you will be easily crushed to death. This is the place with the most old devils. In the past, more than half of the old devils at the 4th and 5th layer came to this star field. There are a few large races here that are not weaker than our desolate race. The combined strength of this star domain is much stronger than our heaven desolate race's star domain." Chaotic Starfield. Lu Li frowned. The name sounded dangerous. However, wasn't this star region just right for him? The desolate race would not dare to enter here, right? Otherwise, it would attract the cooperation of countless old demons. He had the divine concealment technique, so he just needed to find a place to hide and cultivate for a period of time. When he was sure that the desolate race was not after him, he would go back to the third heaven. Tell me, Luli said, tell me everything you know about the third heaven. Oh, you said there are 8 star sectors? I don't know much, Lady Eli said with a frown. There are 8 star sectors nearby. They surround a celestial region in the middle. There used to be aboriginals in the 8 star sectors, such as the desolate race. But because the worlds above the 4th and 5th heaven collapsed, many powerful warriors came in. Therefore, the 8 star sectors are almost the core of the world. Celestial region? Lu Li's eyes lit up. There are immortal palaces outside the star sectors. Is that the celestial region? Yes. Miss Li nodded and said, that is the place with the most experts in the entire world. It is also the most mysterious and magical place. It is the place where the immortals live. Countless races in the 8 major galaxies dream of entering that place. Seeing the yearning in Lady Eli's eyes, Luli asked curiously, not even the desolate race can go there? We can't. Lady Eli shook her head. You don't need strength to go there. You need a key. You need a magical treasure. Only those with that treasure are qualified to go in. Back then, an ancestor of my race went in. Unfortunately, he didn't come back. However, he passed down a few powerful divine skills through space. That ancestor should still be alive. Key? Magical treasure? Luli frowned and didn't continue asking. It was meaningless to ask about this now. With his strength, he couldn't even survive in the 8 star sectors, let alone the celestial region. It was better for him to think about how to survive in the chaotic sky star sectors. Luli thought of something and asked, do you know why the worlds above the 4th heaven collapsed? Lady Li was a direct descendant of the desolate race. She definitely knew more secret. At this moment, Lady Li was very cooperative. Luli naturally wanted to ask more. I heard it was because of a woman. Miss Li frowned and said with uncertainty, I don't know the specifics. Even the great clans that came down from the 4th and 5th heavens are not very clear about it. I only heard that it has something to do with a peerless beauty. A woman? Luli curled his lips. This must be a rumor. It couldn't be that the 4th and 5th heaven collapsed because of a fight between 2 powerful warriors over a woman. Isn't this a little too sensational? Luli told Blood Fairy to keep Lady Li sealed after he talked with Lady Li for a while. Then, he flew toward that region on the Holy Mountain. He made up his mind. He would go to a small world and gather some information. Then, he would find a safe place to cultivate. After 8 to 10 years, he would return to the third heaven. The mountain was so far away. Though the region didn't seem to be far away, it took Luli more than a dozen days to arrive. He chose a relatively small planet and planned to sneak in to gather some information. Whoosh! Before Luli could get close, he saw many winter iron battleships whooshing over. Luli sensed it. He dashed out at once and hid in midair. The battleships were flying a huge flag with the character Wind written on it. The battleships were filled with powerful warriors, and all of them were lords. Luli also sensed many powerful presences on the battleship. There were at least several Saint Kings. The battleship flew away without stopping. Luli sensed many psychic powers were scanning him, but none of them stopped. After the battleship left, Luli flew toward that region. There were scouts lurking outside the region. They were of a strange race. They were skinny and had wings. They looked like bats. Let's go in. Luli didn't care which race controlled this region. He would go in first. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3094. Luli had thought it was just a small universe. As soon as he entered, the race that controlled this universe was alerted. As soon as Luli flew down, before he could find a place to hide, many Batmen swarmed toward him from a nearby city. How did I get discovered? Luli was taken aback. He had been stealthy all this time. These Batmen were not strong, only about the fifth tribulation. How could they locate him so easily? Let's go. Luli dared not to linger. He used his soul skill to contain the Batmen and then flew out of this universe. As soon as he left, many Batmen swarmed out from this universe. Some of them were Saint Kings. They took out their battleships and went after Luli. Luli sensed the space behind him. He could not stay stealthy like this. He took out the holy mountain and fled as fast as he could. At the same time, he began to change his appearance to that of other races. His chi and energy changed as well. The holy mountain was much faster than the battleship. Soon, Luli lost the battleships. After half a day, he found another universe. Unwilling to believe it, he went in again. This interface was not controlled by the Batmen, but by a beast race. It looked like a bear, and its upper body was exceptionally thick. Its two arms were like beast claws, full of power. This time, Luli was not discovered. He snuck in and found a city. The buildings in the city were tall, and the people in the city were of the bear race. The races here also spoke the ancient language, which Luli could understand. He hid outside the city and listened carefully to the words of the bears in the city, sifting for useful information. After several hours of searching, Luli had gathered a lot of messy information, some of which were useful. For example, the race in the nearby universe was called the Bat Race. They were the best at tracking in the chaotic universe. But Luli still did not understand. How did he get discovered so quickly? Did the Bat Race have some strange abilities? Luli hid outside the city for 2 days. He wandered around in the wild and found a lone bear. He captured the bear and forced him into the holy mountain to interrogate him. The overall strength here was much stronger than in the infinite universe. There were 4 powerful races here, and all of them were comparable to the wild race. The other races were like ants compared to the 4 great races. There were especially many old devils here. There were a few large worlds that were completely filled with old devils and rogue cultivators. The disciples of the great families would not enter. There was a word for chaos in the chaotic starfield, and it was indeed very chaotic. Many races had banded together to form their own forces. However, this force might have been formed yesterday, but it was destroyed a month later. After that, those small clans would unite with other small clans to form a new faction. After a few months, they would be scattered again. Apart from the 4 great races, the other powers and races were all unstable. Many of the great races had been destroyed, and after tens of thousands of years, they rose up again. Then, they were probably destroyed again. There were limitless possibilities here, as well as limitless dangers. Back then, countless old devil rogue cultivators of the 4th and 5th heavenly layer came here. Many of them died, so there were countless treasures left here, as well as countless ruins and tombs. There were limitless possibilities, limitless opportunities, and naturally, limitless dangers. Luli didn't care about treasures or opportunities. What he cared about was safety. He had a lot of troubles to deal with. He had been on the run for a long time. He needed some time to stabilize and cultivate. He set his sights on a place called the Cyan Tiger region. It was the closest chaotic universe, but there weren't many Saint Emperors there, not even powerful ones. It was a paradise for Emperor-level warriors. This was the best place for Luli to cultivate. If it was a quiet place, such as a universe controlled by a small race, Luli wouldn't even know if the wild race came after him. On the other hand, if he went to a universe controlled by a big race, it would be easy for him to be discovered by the scouts of the big races. By then, he would be in big trouble. Luli didn't come to the chaotic starfield to look for trouble. He was here to cultivate. Therefore, the Cyan Tiger region was more suitable for him. He could go there to find a good place to cultivate. He could also bribe some warriors to help him gather information. In this way, he wouldn't be in the dark when the wild race came. Having made up his mind, Luli killed the bear race warrior and turned his body into dust. Then, he left this universe and flew toward the Cyan Tiger region. The Cyan Tiger region was not far away. It would only take him 7 or 8 days to arrive at the Holy Mountain at full speed. Of course, Luli didn't dare to fly at full speed. There were many battleships and warriors flying in the void. He didn't want to be exposed. Since he didn't want to be exposed, he must be careful. Luli slowed down. He used the trace of Tao to sense the ripples in space and flew toward the Cyan Tiger region. There were many battleships and rogue warriors. Luli would run into one every now and then. Luli flew in a straight line. When he encountered battleships or warriors, he would stop and release stealth skill. He would only move on after the battleships and warriors left. In this way, Luli kept a low profile. It took him half a month to arrive at the Cyan Tiger region. It was a lively place. Luli saw many warriors going in and out. He sensed a Saint Emperor had entered the Cyan Tiger region. Buzzing, Luli changed his appearance and energy, imitating the appearance of a race he met on the way. He had white scales all over his body. He looked like a mermaid. As soon as he entered the region, he found a group of warriors living in the mountain. They had built a mansion in the mountain and built many divine patterns. Luli didn't want to disturb the warriors here. He wandered around looking for a city. The city must have the most warriors and it was the best place to hide. Half a day later, Luli arrived at a small city controlled by a warrior at the peak of Emperor Realm. To enter the city, one had to pay 1,000 celestial stones. 1,000 celestial stones could allow one to stay here for a month. When the time was up, more celestial stones must be paid. This place is really messy. Luli curled his lips. How could a warrior at the peak of Emperor Realm collect celestial stones at will? At the Black Tortoise City, one could only pay 10 celestial stones a day. The price here was almost the same as at the Black Tortoise City. There were all kinds of races in the city. Luli, as a mermaid, was a common sight. He was disguised as a lord at the initial stage, so he was not eye-catching. Almost no other races paid attention to him. Luli found a tavern and asked for some information. When he learned about the situation in the city, he suddenly had an idea. That was to control the city. To control the city, the simplest way was to control the city master. He did not control the city to earn celestial stones, but to subdue a group of subordinates. With these subordinates monitoring the Cyan Tiger region at all times, he could cultivate in peace. What he was most afraid of was powerful warriors of the wild race sneaking in. Once the powerful warriors of the wild race got close to him, he wouldn't be able to kill them even if he had 10 lives. Controlling a group of subordinates was equivalent to having countless eyes and ears. Please remember this book's domain name. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3095. Never mind, Luli rejected the idea after another round of investigation. This great emperor was easy to take down. However, this great emperor had a group of powerful people behind him. Taking down this great emperor would mean making an enemy out of the Saint Emperor. At the end of the day, this great emperor was the puppet of that Saint Emperor. Otherwise, how could a great emperor control a city? How could he charge such an expensive fee to enter the city? Therefore, taking down this great emperor would implicate the Saint Emperor behind him. Luli was not afraid of this Saint Emperor. However, it would be difficult for him to take down a Saint Emperor given his current abilities. On the off chance that this Saint Emperor was strong, Luli would suffer a miserable death. Luli collected information in the city. After several confirmations, he decided to take down a blessed land to the north of the city. That place was taken down by a group of people known as the 13 Brothers. They were 13 great emperors. The leader's nickname was Heaven Killer. He was at the peak of the great emperor. The blessed land was called Mount Qinyun. There was a type of supreme elixir there. Heaven Killer and the 13 Brothers had occupied Mount Qinyun for hundreds of years. There were many powerful formations built there as well. Over the hundreds of years, powerful warriors had tried to take over Mount Qinyun. However, all of them returned in failure. Mount Qinyun had always been in the hands of the 13 Brothers. 13 great emperors. Lu Li pursed his lips. It just so happened that he needed some followers. If he could have the 13 brothers under his control, then he could set up some scouts. Then, he could live in Mount Qinyun in peace for decades. Mount Qinyun was not far away. Lu Li did not take the holy mountain. He flew toward the mountain at a leisurely pace. On the way, if he ran into other warriors, he would hide with arcane concealment so that his enemies would not find him. A day later, Lu Li stood at the foot of Mount Qinyun. The mountain was not bad. It was steep. Half of the mountain was shrouded in mist. Vaguely, Lu Li sensed danger. He felt that the mountain was like a beast that was entrenched here. It was mysterious. The divine patterns are not bad. Lu Li's ability to decipher and set up divine patterns was limited. That being said, he was knowledgeable. He nodded after a few glances. Blood Fairy had already snuck underground to search for the divine glyph. Lu Li stood at the foot of the mountain for 2 hours. Blood Fairy said, "Master, the runes here are not bad. There are many, such as Xian Qi Gathering, Trapping Formations, and Formations of Destruction. There are also runes that can enhance abilities, which are rare. But now, all of them have been secretly deciphered by me. I can control all the divine inscriptions now, and Master can ascend the mountain freely." "All right." Lu Li walked up slowly along the small path. He hid his qi and energy, making him look like an average man. He slowly made his way to the top. Very quickly, he reached the waist of the mountain. There was white fog here, and naturally, there were divine inscriptions. Lu Li could see the patterns as well. Since Blood Fairy said that she had solved it, Lu Li was not worried. He moved on. The top of the mountain was very flat, and there were 13 castles built here. These castles were not casually built, and they were arranged in a strange formation. At that moment, in the first castle closest to the mountain path, there was a burly man. This burly man was lying on a rattan chair. Beside him stood 4 beautiful women wearing translucent muslin dresses. In front of him, there were more than 10 women dancing gracefully. The man squinted. He looked like a human, but his forehead was protruding. His nose was big, and he had a single horn on his head. With one hand, he was kneading a lady, and with the other hand, he was drinking some unknown wine. He seemed to be enjoying himself. Well, all of a sudden, he frowned. His eyes were wide open, as if he had seen a ghost. A lady next to him asked, "Master 4, what is it?" "Shut up." The burly man who was addressed as 4th Master sent the woman flying with a slap. His body shot out and landed in front of the castle. He stared at Lu Li, who was walking over slowly. He asked in a deep voice, "Who are you? How did you get up here?" Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. From the 3 castles came out 3 great Emperor Realm warriors. They also looked at Lu Li with concern. They had set up powerful divine glyphs here. Even if Lu Li cracked them, the divine glyphs would react. The divine glyphs didn't seem to be cracked, but Lu Li had come up without anyone knowing. What was more, Lu Li seemed to be only at the initial stage of the 6th tribulation. But when he saw the great Emperor Realm warriors, he was calm and he was walking toward them. What did this mean? If Lu Li did not have a death wish, then he must be a super powerful warrior. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. From the other castles, the great Emperor Realm warriors came out. All 13 came out. Lu stopped and looked at the most powerful one at the peak of the great Emperor realm. As far as he was concerned, this one was the only one that posed a threat to him. The other ones were nothing to him. He took out the halberd of Emperor Yong. He had not used it since he took control of the halberd. He wanted to try it out. He said, "How did I get up here? I walked up, of course. As for who I am, you don't need to know. All you need to know is that from today on, I am your master." Master? The great Emperor Realm warriors flew into a rage. They unsheathed their weapons and unleashed their killing intent. They moved quietly and surrounded Lu. Lu didn't mind. He wouldn't have come here if he wasn't confident. Now that he was here, why should he be afraid? He planned to use a drop of purple divine liquid to defeat all of them and force them to surrender. The great Emperor Realm warriors were not in a hurry to take action. The most powerful one at the peak of the great Emperor Realm looked at Lu and said, "Who are you? Why are you challenging the 13 tigers of Qingyun? There is indeed no enmity between us." Lu said indifferently, "I'm only interested in Qin Yunshan and all of you. I'm just lacking a few slaves. If you give Qin Yunshan to me and are willing to follow me for 10 years, I will spare your lives." "How dare you?" A warrior at the later stage of the great Emperor Realm bellowed. "If you are courting death, we will grant your wish. You want us to be your slaves? In your dreams." Buzzing. Lu didn't waste time. He used the dragon transformation at once. He was covered in dragon scales, dragon tail and dragon wings. His chi and energy began to soar. His chi and energy must be at the peak of the great Emperor Realm. Buzzing. Then, he consumed the purple divine liquid. This time, his chi and energy were increased by hundreds of times, reaching the holy warrior realm. Coldness filled his eyes as he shouted, "Surrender to me or die. It's your choice." Swish, swish, the great Emperor Realm warriors were frightened. If Lu were at the peak of the great Emperor Realm, they would be able to kill him. But if Lu were at the Holy Warrior Realm, then the fight would be pointless. The gap between realms was like a chasm that could not be crossed. The warrior at the peak of the great Emperor Realm made up his mind and yelled, "Brother 3, activate your divine patterns. Let's fight. We will not be slaves even if we have to die." Please remember this book's domain name. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3096. Formation, Rise. As one of the great Emperor's warriors released rays of light, the mist around Mount Qin began to tumble and form white dragons that flew toward them. This was a powerful divine pattern formation in Mount Qin. It took the peak of the great Emperor's warriors more than 10 years and countless treasures to build it. In the formation, the great Emperor's warriors would be enhanced. The one at the peak of the great Emperor's warrior could fight against a Saint Emperor. That was why the great Emperor dared to take the risk. Otherwise, he would have run away from a Saint Emperor. Whoosh, 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 the white dragons formed from the white mist whooshed over toward one of the great Emperor's warriors. Halfway through, however, the formation suddenly flashed and the white dragons turned toward Lu. "What? How is this possible? What is going on? This is impossible." The 13 great Emperors' expressions changed as if they had seen a ghost. The white mist surged into Lu's body. Once again, Lu's strength grew. Right at that moment, Lu made his move as well. He poured some source energy into the halberd in his hand and swept it forward. A ray of dazzling light shone out. In an instant, space trembled violently and time seemed to have stopped. Out of instinct, the 4 great Emperor's warriors tried to dodge. However, they felt they could not move at all. Or maybe it was as if time had stopped. They could not run away. They could only watch as the white ray of light cut at them. Boom! The 4 great Emperor's warriors were cut in half by the white ray of sword light as if they were made of paper. If the halberd had landed on their heads, they would have been dead by now. Whoosh! Luli leaped across the void and appeared on the other side. He swung his halberd again. The 4 great Emperor's warriors came to their senses and dodged. But when the halberd was swung, they felt time and space were in a mess. They only saw a flash of white light, and then the ray of sword light came. They were cut in half at the waist as well. Lord! The peak of the great Emperor's warrior was about to take action when he suddenly dropped to his knees, kowtowed and said, "Lord, we surrender. Please spare our lives." Luli was too strong. The peak of the great Emperor was not stupid. He knew that no matter how hard they struggled, they would not be a match for Luli. With just 2 moves, Luli had injured 8 of his brothers. Luli had been merciful. Otherwise, the 8 great Emperor Realm warriors would have been dead. Luli put away the halberd, took out the holy mountain, and went in. The moment the sacred mountain appeared, another powerful aura flashed past. It was Miss Eli's aura. Luli said coldly, "Heal your wounds first. I will not stay here for long. I will leave in 10 years. As long as you are obedient, Qin Yunshan will be returned to you in the future." With that said, Luli said no more. He was weak after using the purple divine liquid. He needed to rest for a couple of days. He couldn't let these Emperor-ranked powerhouses see through him. Otherwise, how could he make them obediently work for him? Another Saint Emperor? The warrior at the peak of the great Emperor realm was frightened. Though he did not know why Luli had entered the interspatial artifact, he asked the other great Emperor realm warriors to come and help the wounded. Luli's words made him less resistant. Luli didn't turn them into soul slaves, nor did he control them. What was more, Luli said that they would only be living here for 10 years. Luli rested for 5 days and then he went out. This time, his energy was gone. He wasn't even at the 6th tribulation anymore. This made the warrior at the peak of the great Emperor realm even more frightened. He could not tell Luli's realm at all. What did that mean? It meant that Luli was unfathomable. He must be a Saint Emperor, a powerful one. The 8 heavily injured Saint Kings were still recovering. Luli went straight to the largest castle and sat on the host's seat. He waved his hand and said, "Sit down. There's no need to be so reserved. I said I'm only borrowing your place for a while. I won't ask you to do anything excessive." The warrior at the peak of the great Emperor realm and the other 4 did not dare to sit down. The warrior at the peak of the great Emperor realm bowed and said, "Lord, there is no place for us to sit. If you need anything, please tell us." "What is your name?" Luli asked. The warrior at the peak of the great Emperor realm answered at once, "Lord, my name is Guanyang. This is my second brother, Guanhe. This is Guangu. This is..." The warrior at the peak of the great Emperor realm introduced them one by one. Luli nodded and said, "Truth be told, I am here to hide from a very powerful enemy. That enemy of mine is very close to the consummate realm. So, if he finds you here, I don't know if I will die, but you will." Very close to the consummate realm? Guanyang and the others' expressions changed. There was no such thing as an emperor, only a Saint Emperor. Luli's enemy was so powerful. It was only a matter of time before they found out that they had followed Luli. Would they be able to stay alive then? "Don't worry." Luli waved his hand. Then with a flash, his body changed and he became the same as Guanyang and the others. He looked exactly like Guanyang. His chi and realm were the same. If it were not for the fact that Guanyang was here, they would have mistaken him for Luli. Ha ha! Luli smiled. He changed back to another appearance, that of a bear. He said, "Now you can put your mind at ease. It will be hard for my enemy to track me down. I will change my location every 10 years. I have been on the run for hundreds of years, and he hasn't found me yet. As long as you help me, he won't be able to find me." What a marvelous technique! Guanyang and the other great Emperor realm warriors were scared, but they were relieved. Guan cupped his fists and said, "Lord, what do you need us to do?" "That is easy." Lu Li took out a portrait of the wild race. He said, "Buy some scouts and have them monitor the entire Green Tiger region. If you see any powerful warriors of this race coming, report to me at once." "That is easy." Guan nodded. Lu Li's ring glowed and many elixirs appeared. There must be at least 1,000,000 of them. Those were the elixirs from Emperor Yang's halberd, and they were priceless. "Lord, what are you doing?" Guan and the others were excited. It would be difficult for them to get those elixirs even if they wanted to. They would have to spend a lot of time and even take risk. "These are for you," Lu Li said calmly. "You will need celestial stones if you want to buy scouts. You can sell some. When you are done, I will give you more before I leave in 10 years. "Thank you, Lord." Guan and the others were overjoyed and they bowed. They had thought that Lu Li was going to take Qin Yunshan and make them his slaves. Little did they know that Lu Li didn't do that. Instead, he gave them so many elixirs. It was such a contrast that they felt they had gone from hell to heaven. "Go." Lu Li waved his hand with satisfaction. Using both carrot and stick was the art of governing. With the 13 great Emperor Realm warriors keeping an eye on him, he could cultivate here in peace for 10 years. P.S. Chapter 4. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3097. What Lu Li was worried about did not happen. Powerful warriors of the desolate race never showed up. Guan spent half a year bribing thousands of warriors to set up sentries in every city. For one thing, they would see if any powerful warriors of the desolate race were coming. For another, they would monitor the entire Cyan Tiger region and report to Lu Li as soon as anything happened. Lu Li set up the Qin Yun Mountain. Of course, Blood Fairy was the one who did most of the work. There were more divine glyphs here and they were powerful ones. The divine glyphs were mainly used to isolate energy and defense. Lu Li dug a tunnel at the foot of the mountain and built some divine glyphs underground. He was ready to run at any time. If the divine glyphs were to be touched, he would run away at once. Half a year passed peacefully, but the Cyan Tiger region was quite lively. There would be battles between warriors, relics being discovered, and treasures showing up. Lu Li was not interested. He had a top-level holy weapon, and he had the halberd of Emperor Yong, which was powerful. He was not good at fundamental principle. Having a relic weapon was pointless. The halberd of Emperor Yong was not bad. It had abilities related to time and space. Lu Li could tell how powerful the halberd was when he attacked the 8 warriors of the great Emperor realm. Lu Li hardly cultivated. He was sorting out what he had gained and figuring out what to do next. Not only where he was going, but also his cultivation. He had 1 drop of purple divine liquid and 2 drops of venom left. Those could only be used to save his life. They could not provide him with long-term abilities. The pond was recovering, but it would take at least 100 years for it to be fully recovered. Even then, he could only produce 3 or 4 drops of purple divine liquid, which was not meaningful. At the end of the day, the divine liquid from the Dharma realm could only be used as support. Lu Li must find a way to improve his abilities so that he wouldn't have to run around like a stray dog. Right, the heaven pellet. Lu Li remembered a pellet that Lady Li wanted. She offered a high price, but Lu Li didn't sell it. Since he had nothing to do now, he could consume the pellet. While he was consuming the pellet, he could cultivate the swift skill, which was a secret skill. Lu Li turned to Lady Li, who was at the bottom of the pond. This delicate young lady was living a comfortable life. She was cultivating leisurely at the bottom of the pond, not worried at all. Lu Li glanced over to Lady Li's exquisite body. His eyes were burning with passion. She was the top lady of the desolate race. The desolate race did not allow outsiders to marry. If he were to harm Miss Li, he would probably be the envy of countless men in the infinite wilderness. After some thoughts, Luli finally suppressed the turmoil in his heart. There was only one drop of purple divine liquid left, and he didn't want to waste it. Furthermore, this was a junior that the Fu ancestor doted on. His entire body was filled with treasures. What if he had some hidden tricks up his sleeves? For example, what if she summoned Ancestor Fu's avatar? Would he be able to withstand it then? There was no need for that. Qin Yunshan had many beautiful maids. If Luli wanted to play, he could just wave his hand and they would come. It wasn't worth the risk. Luli thought that when he had the chance, he would let this Buddha go. Staying with him was like a ticking time bomb. If he wasn't careful, he could be blown to death. Luli continued, Lady Li. Lady Li opened her eyes. She looked at Luli in the pond and asked, What is it now? How do I consume the heaven marrow pellet? Luli didn't know much about the heaven marrow pellet. What if the pellet could not be consumed directly? It was better to make it clear. Just consume it directly, Miss Li replied coldly. Then, she froze for a moment as if she thought of something. She said, This heavenly marrow pill's medicinal properties are very strong. You should first refine some inattributed divine herbs to neutralize it. Otherwise, you will not be able to withstand it and your body will be destroyed. I understand. Go on with your cultivation. Luli waved his hand and said, Just cultivate and I will let you go after a while. Don't play any tricks. You will be the one suffering. You will let me go? Lady Li's eyes glowed. She stood up and said, A gentleman keeps his word. Don't go back on your words. I am not a gentleman. Luli turned around and left. He said, But I usually keep my word. Of course, you have to listen to me. Luli went back to the tree and sat down with his legs crossed. He took out the heaven marrow pellet and put it aside. Then, he used psychic power to check the elixirs in his interspatial ring, looking for elixirs of a cold nature. Soon, he found one. He got it from the tomb of Emperor Yong. The space around the elixir was frozen. Clearly, this was a powerful elixir of a cold nature. Luli took out the elixir and began to consume it. As soon as he did, he felt he had fallen into ice. Even his blood was frozen. He took out the heaven marrow pellet at once. Buzzing, it was as if a fire had gone into Luli's body. He was burning hot. If it weren't for the fact that he had the elixir to neutralize the heat, he would have been in pain. Luli's body was strong. He could stand it without the elixir, but it would be uncomfortable. With the elixir of a cold nature, Luli could stand it easily. He was satisfied with what he sensed. The heaven marrow pellet was powerful. Luli felt his body was strengthening quickly. It had been a long time since he had this feeling. His body was so strong that it would be difficult for him to improve greatly. He couldn't even feel the average elixirs. The elixir took a long time to be consumed. It would take him at least a month to finish. Luli was not in a hurry. He sat down with his legs crossed to cultivate the stride skill. Soon, a month passed. Luli felt his body was improved after he consumed the heaven marrow pellet. Previously, his body was as strong as that of the later stage of the Emperor realm. Now, it must be at the peak of the Emperor realm. If he used the dragon transformation, he would be at the initial stage of the Saint realm. If he consumed the purple divine liquid, he would be at the middle stage of the Saint realm. Good. Luli nodded. One heaven marrow pellet could improve him so much? If he could refine a little more, wouldn't his physical body improve even more? Luli sent a message to Lady Li, who was angry. She was in the middle of cultivation and was interrupted by Luli several times. How could she not be angry? However, she was smart enough not to say anything and answered Luli's question honestly. What disappointed Luli was that the heaven marrow pellet had been lost for many years, at least in the barren universe. Luli didn't know if the chaotic star region had been around for that long. The first heaven marrow pellet was the most effective, and the effect would diminish as time went on. It was not just the heaven marrow pellet. It was the same for all elixirs. The effect would be the best at the beginning and the effect would diminish later. Actually, Lady Li thought about it and said, "Body cultivation is not a good way out. You are a human being and you don't have the talent. That is why it is so difficult. If you really want to consume it, I suggest you go to those horrifying places and use the force in heaven and earth to refine your body instead of going to look for elixirs." Luli nodded. Lady Li was not trying to trick him into going to dangerous places. She had a point. There were only so many top-level elixirs. Once there was a chance, all forces would fight for it. Luli didn't have celestial stones or abilities. How could he compete with those forces? Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3098. There were some strange terrains in the world. In these terrains, there were many horrifying energies condensed from heaven and earth. The most common was fire. There were many places in the third heaven that had fire, such as the Blazing Island. There were terrifying tornadoes in some places, lightning in some places, fire in some places, ice in some places, and powerful darkness energy in some places. No matter what kind of heaven and earth energy it was, it could harm a martial artist. At the same time, it could stimulate warriors' potential. Their bodies could be improved, but they had to be able to withstand the horrifying energies. Precious elixirs were rare. Some elixirs would take thousands or tens of thousands of years to grow. Some elixirs would be harvested before they could mature. There were so many warriors and the demand for elixirs. The top elixirs would be monopolized by powerful warriors and big forces. What was more, elixirs had resistance. Just like how warriors would refine their bodies would adjust automatically. When more elixirs were consumed, a warrior's body would develop resistance. It was pointless for Luli to consume regular elixirs. Lady Li's suggestion was right. If Luli wanted to become a holy warrior, then he would have to cultivate in dangerous places and refine his body with the energy in heaven and earth. Let Guan Yang and the others gather some information. Luli shook his head and continued to cultivate. At the same time, he took out some elixirs for body refinement and soul nourishment. Better than nothing. It was always good to consume some elixirs. Cultivating under the tree of God was so fast that the swift was not that difficult. It was just a skill that consumed a warrior's energy to enhance his abilities for a short time. Every time the swift was used, it would consume a large amount of energy. Xiao Imo could only use it a few times before he couldn't take it anymore. Therefore, it was better not to use this skill until the last moment. 8 months. Luli had been cultivating in Mount Qinyun for 8 months, and he had mastered the swift. It was very quiet during these 8 months. No powerful warriors came to Mount Qinyun. Guan Yang and the others didn't find any traces of the wild race. Of course, it was possible that the powerful warriors of the wild race had changed their look. But it was a fact that no warriors came to disturb them. During this period of time, nothing major happened in the Green Tiger world. At most, there were some battles between experts, some battles between forces, and the emergence of some treasures. These were all very common occurrences in the Green Tiger world. Guan Yang had brought back the information that Luli asked him to collect. There were too many dangerous places like this in the Chaotic Star region. Guan Yang only collected information about hundreds of universes nearby. There were more than a dozen places nearby that Luli needed, and there was one in the Cyan Tiger universe. To the north of the Green Tiger world, there was a swamp. That swamp contained a naturally formed poisonous fog. This poisonous fog had already been proven. Even if a saint-ranked expert entered it, they wouldn't be able to last more than a few days. If an emperor-ranked expert entered it, they would instantly be corroded. The swamp of ancient poison. This place was not only famous in the Green Tiger realm, but also in the entire heavenly chaotic starfield. This was because a supreme expert who was infinitely close to the great circle of the Martial Saint level had been poisoned to death in the past. However, that supreme expert was heavily injured and chased by the Martial Saint level. He went in to hide and was eventually poisoned to death. A place with poisonous mist would definitely nurture some wondrous medicines. Many saint emperors and races with wondrous abilities had gone in to investigate, but none of them dared to venture into the depths of the swamp. It was said that the poisonous mist in the swamp was so horrifying that even a warrior infinitely close to the great circle of the Martial Saint level could be poisoned to death. Swamp of ancient poison? Lu Li's interest was piqued. After all, he could stay here and hide in the swamp of ancient poison. If he could improve his physical strength, it would be perfect. More importantly, Lu Li once absorbed the poisonous mist in the prison of devils of the Crimson Dragon race and produced several drops of toxic liquid. If he could absorb the poisonous mist in the swamp of ancient poison and produce hundreds or thousands of drops of toxic liquid, then he wouldn't feel so pressured when he encountered Saint Emperors. He had 1 drop of purple divine liquid left. If he used it up, then he would have to run away when he encountered powerful Saint Emperors. He wouldn't be able to fight back. After some thoughts, Lu Li decided to go to the swamp of ancient poison. He had to give it a try whether he could succeed or not. He believed that the toxins in the periphery could not pose a fatal threat to him. He could always come back. Lu Li thought about it and decided to depart in 3 days. He would leave stealthily so that Guan Yang and the others wouldn't know. Guan Yang and the others wouldn't go to the underground to look for him if he didn't come out. If the poisonous mist was too strong, he could sneak back. Should I let Lady Li go? An idea came to Lu Li's mind, but he dismissed it after some thought. If he let Lady Li go, then he would have to leave the Cyan Tiger region. More importantly, who knew if the wild race would come after him? Even if they didn't come now, it didn't mean they wouldn't in the future. Lu Li knew how important Lady Li was to the wild race. It would be better to have a hostage. 3 days later, Lu Li secretly left through the teleportation formation and went to a nearby city. He teleported all the way to the north. Lu Li had many celestial stones with him. He planned to buy a castle at the Black Tortoise City. He had many elixirs and he didn't lack celestial stones. Teleportation was expensive, but he didn't mind teleporting continuously. Half a month later, he stood outside the swamp of ancient poison. Before he got closer, Lu Li noticed that there were no plants or living beings in an area with a radius of 300 miles. It was dead silent. On his way, Lu Li collected information about the swamp of ancient poison. It was the most dangerous place in the Cyan Tiger region and also one of the most dangerous places in the Chaotic Star region. The swamp had been around for many years. It was said that it existed millions of years ago. During that time, many landforms of the Cyan Tiger region had changed. The mountains had become lakes and the oceans had become basins. But the swamp of ancient poison had always been there and hadn't changed much. Over the millions of years, some warriors had cultivated in the swamp, but they were all on the periphery. It was said that no powerful warrior had ever gone into the deepest part of the swamp. The only one that did was a Saint Realm warrior who was close to the completion. But he died not long after he went in. From the information, one could tell how terrifying the swamp was. Lu Li didn't dare to be careless even when he was outside the swamp. He went into the sacred mountain and slowly moved deeper into the swamp. The poisonous mist covered up the sky and covered up a large area. The poisonous mist rose up to thousands of miles into the sky, connecting the sky and the earth. Lu Li looked over, but he could see nothing but the rolling black fog. Psychic power couldn't penetrate in here. The poisonous mist was strange. Looking from afar, it was like a huge monster that could devour all living beings. Let's go in. Lu Li flew the sacred mountain in slowly. He didn't dare to be careless. He released the dragon freezing skill and, at the same time, he sent a message to Lady Li to be prepared. Lady Li didn't want to be poisoned to death here. Poisonous mist? Lady Li smiled with disdain and said, "We of the wild race are strong. We are not afraid of regular poisons. I have never been poisoned in my life." "Really?" Luli laughed and said, "You are so stubborn now. Don't beg me to save you later. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leader's Mobile Version. Chapter 3099. The Sacred Mountain drifted into the poisonous fog. As Luli had expected, the poisonous fog soon began to seep into the sacred mountain. Back in the prison of devils, the sacred mountain could not stop the poisonous fog as well. Last time, Luli was panicking, but this time, he was not. He stood above the pond with a smile. Would Lady Li be hovering between life and death from the poison? The toxins spread slowly. Luli had been flying for thousands of miles before the toxins reached the pond. Lady Li sensed it as well, but she did not worry. Her special body constitution aside, her armor alone could not allow regular poisons to seep into her body. The poisonous fog seeped into the pond and soon reached Lady Li. She revealed her armor. She still had a proud look on her face. Clearly, she did not believe that the poison could do her any harm. The poisonous fog enveloped Lady Li. She tried to sense for a while, but she still had a proud look on her face. Luli was surprised. Was the poisonous fog ineffective on Lady Li? After a moment, Lady Li cried out in surprise. Her face turned pale. She realized that the poison had entered her body and was corroding her source of energy. What was more horrifying was that the poison had entered her soul at a speed and was merging with her soul. Cold. The poison had another effect. She felt cold all over, so cold that she was shivering. The coldness went straight to her bones, and it was frightening. Lady Li was scared. She sensed a fatal danger. The poison had entered her soul without a trace, and her enchanted soul had not reacted. The poison was horrifying. "This is powerful," Luli exclaimed. He did not move. He waited for a moment. Lady Li was trembling and her chi and energy were weakening. She was no different from a warrior of the Emperor realm now. Luli said, "Blood Fairy, send her up and let me in." Buzzing with a glare, Lady Li was sent up and Luli was sent down. Luli appeared at the bottom of the pond. The poisonous fog swarmed toward him and enveloped him. He did not have any armor and the toxins entered his body quickly. Some divine energy and source of energy in Luli's body were melting. The toxins had entered his soul as well. The toxins here were more potent than those in the prison of devils. "I can't." Luli felt he could not hold on much longer. The toxins were merging with his soul. If something were to happen to his soul, he would be in big trouble. Luli mobilized the swirl in the realm of magic at once. The realm of magic began to suck in the poisonous fog like crazy. The toxic fog in his soul was sucked in and Luli absorbed as much as he could. "Blood Fairy, open a tunnel and let more poisonous mist in." Luli was delighted to make sure that the toxins here were stronger than in the prison of devils. The poisonous mist here was endless, and he could absorb it as much as he wanted. It would not be a problem for him to condense thousands or tens of thousands of drops of highly toxic liquid. These highly toxic liquids were sharp weapons to kill enemies. Back then, Ao Yun was poisoned to death by him. Blood Fairy opened up a passageway, and the toxic mist poured in like a tide. Before, it had only seeped in, but now it was flooding in. The toxins flowed into Luli's magic field like a river. Lady Li, who was watching from above, was dumbfounded. The toxins were so strong that even the armor refined by the ancestor of honor could not stand it. How come Luli was not afraid of it? Instead, he was absorbing the toxins like crazy? Is he born not afraid of poison? Lady Li remembered that Ao Yun was poisoned to death by Luli. She had mixed feelings about Luli. This human could not be treated as an emperor. Not even holy warriors could compare with him. This human was strange, and he was young, about the same age as her. She was the princess of the wild race, and had a vast amount of resources at her disposal. On the other hand, Luli came from a rural universe. He did not even know about the chaotic universe. He could not be a warrior from the 8 galaxies. Crack, 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 Lady Li's teeth were chattering. She could not afford to be distracted any longer. She began to concentrate on getting rid of the toxins in her body. Otherwise, if the toxins were to take effect in her soul, she would die a miserable death. Luli was absorbing the toxins quickly. Because of his fast speed, there were fewer toxins nearby. Blood Fairy flew the holy mountain around and flew to where the toxic mist was concentrated. Well, the realm of magic is absorbing the toxic mist automatically. I don't have to worry about it. A moment later, Luli realized that the swirl in the realm of magic was running on its own. He did not have to worry about it. He had nothing to do here, so he thought for a moment and said, "Blood Fairy, I will sit under the tree and continue to throw the girl into the lake. Can you guide the poison into my body from other places without affecting the girl?" "That is easy," Blood Fairy replied. "I just need to activate some patterns so that the toxic mist can follow this path to where you are. She will not be affected." "Okay." Luli rushed to the pond while Lady Li was teleported down. She was frightened. She was relieved to see that there was no toxins in the pond. What? She glanced over and saw that Luli was sitting under the tree. Poisonous fog was coming out from the ground where he was and was entering his body. Luli sat with his legs crossed calmly. His breaths were long and deep. He seemed to be cultivating. Lady Li swore to herself that he was a freak. She had to figure out a way to get rid of the toxins. Luli cultivated leisurely. The realm of magic was absorbing toxins at a crazy pace. He flew toward the place where the toxic mist was most concentrated. Time flew by. Soon, half a month had passed. Luli was so immersed in cultivation that he lost track of time. Lady Li, on the other hand, could not stand it any longer. As time went by, she felt her body was getting colder. Her blood was freezing and her soul was on the verge of being frozen. The divine energy and the source of energy in her body were all corroded. She did not even have the strength to lift her hands. Her realm of magic was frozen, and she could not mobilize any source of energy. She felt weaker and weaker. She was closer to death. She wanted to take out the token given to her by the reverent ancestor and ask him to send an avatar. But this was not the infinite star region. What was more, even if the reverent ancestor sent an avatar, what could he do? The avatar could only attack a few times at most. It would not have the ability to cure the poison unless the reverent ancestor himself came. Also, Lady Li did not want to crush it. She felt humiliated. It was shameful enough that she was kidnapped. Now, the reverent ancestor's avatar saw her like this. Her pride could not accept it. Should I beg Luli? An idea came to Lady Li's mind, but she soon rejected it. Begging the enemy? That was not her style, not to mention that Luli was a puny human being. She was the princess of the wild race. How could she beg a bumpkin? Hang in there. Lady Li made up her mind. After another half a month, she could not stand it anymore. Her soul was filled with fear. She took out the jade talisman given by the reverent ancestor and crushed it. However, to her despair, the avatar of the reverent ancestor did not come. Maybe this place was too far away or they were in a different star region. Either way, she could not count on the reverent ancestor. Do I really have to beg that hateful human being? Lady Li's eyes were filled with tears. She felt she had been wronged more than she ever had in her life. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leader's Mobile Version. Chapter 3100. Another 2 days passed. Miss Li spent those 2 days in despair. She was on the verge of a mental breakdown. This period of time was the most difficult for her. After knowing that Ancestor Fu's avatar could not descend, she felt extremely helpless. It was like she was in hell. She had never suffered much since she was young. Even though there were a few times when she was in danger, she knew that there were experts of the desolate race nearby. So, she would not really die. She was not in despair. This time, she truly felt despair. Her backer was far away in the infinite star region. There were no experts here that she could rely on. She had no antidote and could only wait for death. Fear, panic, grievance, unwillingness, regret, despair, all sorts of emotions occupied her mind. She wanted to beg Luli countless times, but the pride in her bones prevented her from doing so. The desolate race's teachings were to maintain their pride even at the cost of death. Another 2 days passed. Miss Li's soul was on the verge of collapse. At that moment she felt her body move. With a flash of white light, she appeared in front of a person. Her actions were very inelegant. She was sprawled on the ground. She tried to open her eyes to see a pair of feet. "You desolate race sure are proud." A cold voice was heard. It was Lu Li's voice. Following that, he continued, "Beg me and I will help you." Miss Li raised her head with difficulty. Seeing Lu Li's faint smile, her mouth trembled slightly. She clenched her teeth and said, "Dream on. I would rather die than beg you." "You are not even 1,000 years old, right?" Lu Li said with a faint smile. "To be able to cultivate to the divine emperor realm at 1,000 years old, you are the future hope of your desolate race. Even if you don't think for yourself, you have to think for your desolate race. You are still so young and so beautiful. You probably have never been in love, right? Other than the infinite star region, you haven't been anywhere else, right? Don't you think it's a pity to die like this before you can become a true expert? Are you really willing to die like this? As long as you beg me, I will save you." Lu Li was like an old sorcerer. His words were filled with charm, like a strange uncle trying to coax a little girl. Miss Li's heart wavered, but she still pursed her lips and did not say a word. "Since you want to die, then I can only send you off. I wish you good luck on the road to hell." Lu Li waved his hand. Lady Li returned to the bottom of the pond after a white glare. She was cold to begin with. Touching the water in the pond, she felt even colder. It was like going from heaven to hell. Time moved on. Lady Li was still suffering in hell. Lu Li didn't send any more messages. Lady Li's mind was becoming more and more unstable. Lu Li's words echoed in her ears, making her faith crumble bit by bit. In the end, she made up her mind and said, "Lu Li, please, save me. I don't want to die." After sending the message, tears gushed out of Miss Li's eyes. She felt that she had suffered the greatest grievance in the world. As the princess of the desolate race and a sacred emperor, she had actually put down her pride to beg a human larch? This made her feel extremely humiliated. Hee, a cold laugh rang out, piercing into Miss Li's heart like a needle. Miss Li closed her eyes, her delicate body unable to tremble, because she felt that her entire body was frozen. Buzzing, after a flash of white glare, she appeared in front of a pair of feet again. Then a hand reached over and put on her forehead. Buzzing, Lu Li's hand glowed. A force came from Lu Li's hand. Then the toxins in her soul were sucked out. The hand moved to her body. Wherever it touched, the toxins would be absorbed. However, the hand was moving close to her body. In other words, the hand was touching her body. Lady Li flew into a rage. She said, "Lu Li, what are you doing? Get your dirty hands off me." Lu Li sneered again. He suddenly tore off Lady Li's dress, revealing her underwear. Her breasts were on the verge of bursting out. She had an armor, but it could not prevent the toxins from entering her body. Luli glanced over and said in a mocking tone, "Look at your current situation. What can you do even if I force myself on you? You have two choices. Either I don't save you or you shut your mouth." Lady Li closed her eyes, feeling wronged. Tears gushed out from her eyes. She didn't dare to say another word. She was frightened by Luli. Given her current situation, she wouldn't be able to fight back if Luli really wanted to do her on the spot. Luli's hand moved on. Everywhere his hand touched, the toxins would be absorbed. Luli's hand moved over every part of her body, even her private parts. But Luli didn't do anything beastly. He was a man of pride. He would not take advantage of others when they were weak. Also, Lady Li was cold and stiff. She was no different from a dead body. It would be pointless to play with her. After Luli touched Lady Li's body, the toxins in her body were removed. He waved his hand and Lady Li went back to the pond. Since the toxins were removed, Lady Li's strong body began to recover. She could feel her body was getting stronger and recovering every second. After the time for one incense stick to burn, Lady Li sat up with her legs crossed. She took out some pellets and swallowed them. After the time for another incense stick to burn, she suddenly woke up. Her dress was torn and her breasts were exposed. She took out an interspatial artifact and changed into a dress. When she came out, she stood at the bottom of the pond and glared at Luli, who was sitting under the tree. She did not say anything, but the hatred on her face said it all. "Are you cursing me in your mind?" Luli didn't open his eyes, but his voice reached Lady Li's ears. Lady Li was shocked, but she didn't say anything. Lady Li was not so stupid as to be at the mercy of others. The most important thing was that Luli was not a gentleman. Luli's voice came again. "I saved you and you don't know how to repay my kindness. You desolate race people have bad morals." Lady Li snorted but said nothing. The more she said, the more she would be at a disadvantage. She decided to sit down and cultivate. Luli paid no more attention to Lady Li. He sped up the absorption of the poisonous fog. He was slightly looking forward to it. He didn't know how much poisonous liquid would be produced after absorbing so much poisonous fog this time. Would the poisonous liquid this time be stronger than last time? Time flew. Soon, a month had passed. The first drop of poisonous liquid appeared in Luli's realm of magic. Luli sensed it and was overjoyed. He sensed that the poisonous liquid was stronger than before. In other words, the liquid was more potent than before. Wait, it was said that the poisonous fog in the depth of the swamp of ancient poison was more powerful than the ones in the periphery. How powerful would the liquid be when he absorbed the poisonous fog in the depth of the swamp? Luli couldn't imagine it. This realm of magic is amazing. Luli suddenly realized that his realm of magic was very powerful. Not only could it produce nourishing liquid like the purple divine liquid, but it could also produce poisonous liquid. Could it be that by absorbing other strange energies, he could produce liquid with other properties? P.S. 4 more chapters. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3101. Half a year. Over the past half a year, Luli had lost count of how much poisonous fog he had absorbed. Dozens of drops of poisonous liquid had appeared in the realm of magic and more were coming in. Almost every 2 days there would be a drop of poisonous liquid. The poisonous fog in the periphery of the swamp of ancient poisons was thinner. Looking from nearby, one could tell that the fog was thinner here. All of them were absorbed by Luli. Like a bottomless pit, Luli's realm was sucking in the poisonous fog like crazy. Luli's realm of magic was different from regular ones. It was more like a super furnace that could melt all kinds of energy. The realm of magic was just a place where source of energy was born. Luli had never heard of anyone's realm of magic that could melt energy, let alone poisonous fog. Therefore, this realm of magic was strange. Of course, Luli's realm of magic was strange to begin with. How could anyone else build a realm of magic before reaching the quasi-emperor realm? As such, Luli wasn't surprised to see such a strange situation. Lady Li had been very sensible recently. She had been cultivating and didn't even open her eyes once. Apart from the occasional glances at the realm of magic, Luli spent the rest of his time thinking about his future cultivation. Previously to Luli, the peak of the Emperor realm was the limit. It had not been long since he reached the Emperor realm. Later on, he was captured by sacred ancestor Tian. After that, he had been on the run. He had no time to think about his own cultivation. Now, he was safe and he had a clear understanding of the world. He had killed Saint Kings. Naturally, his vision had been broadened. His ambition had grown. Previously, he thought that reaching the peak of the Emperor realm would be good enough. But now, he wanted to reach the peak of the Saint King realm, the complete realm. According to various reports, the complete realm was the peak of the entire world. Warriors at the complete realm were not afraid of any challenges. In the 8 galaxies, if one was not at the complete realm, he would be in danger of being killed at any time, let alone in the immortal region. Don't think so far ahead. I should focus on my own path. Luli remembered what a mortal of heaven Sin said. To make further progress at the Emperor realm, he must have his own path first. Luli did not know what a path was, but he knew it was a hurdle. Oh right. Luli looked at Lady Li, who was at the bottom of the pond. There was a princess of a super family here. She must have received comprehensive guidance in cultivation. He might be able to learn more from her to make his future path smoother. Miss Li. Luli sent a message to Lady Li, who opened her eyes and asked grumpily, "What is it now? Yo, your temper has grown?" Luli raised his eyebrows and said, "Are you itching for a beating? Do you want me to give you a full body massage?" Hearing Luli's blatant threat, Lady Li flew into a rage. Her eyes were filled with shame and anger. She said while clenching her teeth, "Say it now. I need to cultivate." "Can't you be nicer?" Luli said coldly, "You must know that this is not the infinite region. Your ancestor of blessing is not here. If you make me unhappy, I'll give you a full body check to make you feel better." Despicable and shameless. Lady Li gnashed her teeth, but she didn't dare to say anything else. She murmured to herself. She looked up at Luli and said coldly, "What do you want? Say it." Luli grinned. He stared at Lady Li with a smile and said, "You smile first." Lady Li pulled a long face. She said coldly, "Luli, I am your prisoner, but I am not an entertainer. I am not here to laugh. We, the wild race, have our dignity. Please do not insult me." "I cannot insult you." The smile on Luli's face disappeared. He glanced over Lady Li and said with a grin, "I cannot humiliate you, but I can humiliate you. Either you smile or the choice is yours." Miss Li gritted her teeth, and her eyes were slightly red. She pursed her lips and lowered her head after a moment. She forced a smile, but her smile was even uglier than her crying. "Ha ha ha." Luli laughed happily. His temperament had changed. He was much more evil now. He was happy that he could make the princess of the wild race bow down to him. The wild race was the overlord of the infinite star region. The wild race was a mountain above hundreds of races. The wild race was a high and mighty royal race. In the infinite star region, even the patriarchs of the red dragon race and the four-armed race would have to be respectful to Lady Li, let alone a nobody like him. Now, a nobody like him wanted Lady Li to smile, and she had to smile. Any warrior of a small race would be happy. Okay. Luli was done flirting. He got down to business. "Lady Li, have you learned Tao?" "Tao?" Lady Li was surprised. Then she said, Every powerful Emperor Realm warrior has their own Tao, not to mention Saint Emperors. Have you not learned your own Tao? As far as Lady Li could tell, Lu Li's comprehensive abilities were stronger than average Saint Emperors. Even though he had not reached the Saint Realm, he must be at least at the later stage of the Emperor Realm. How come he had not learned his own Tao? Yes, Lu Li didn't hide anything. He said bluntly, "It has only been a few years since I reached the Emperor Realm. I don't have time to study my own Tao." Lady Li rolled her eyes. Lu Li was a freak. He had just reached the Emperor Realm and his comprehensive abilities were already comparable to Saint Emperors? If he could reach the Saint Emperor Realm, he would be infinitely close to the complete Saint Emperor Realm. Lu Li asked again, "Lady Li, what is your Tao?" Tao was a private matter. It involved the core abilities of every powerful warrior. Normally, Lady Li wouldn't say much. But Lu Li was a rascal. She knew that if she didn't say anything, Lu Li would do something nasty. He had touched her all over. She thought for a while and said, "I learned the Tao of swords. But my Tao is not complete. I learned it in a sword formation. That sword formation was built by a powerful warrior of the wild race. Naturally, the Tao in it was left behind by him. In other words, the Tao I learned was passed down from my ancestor. That is why I did not learn it very well." Tao of swords? Lu Li was deep in thought. He asked, "You learned the Tao of swords. Will you have better control over your sword?" "Of course." Miss Li nodded and said, "Whichever aspect of the Tao you comprehend, you will be stronger in that aspect. For example, if I learn the Tao of Thunderbolt, I will have better control over it." Lu Li asked, "Tao of Thunderbolt? Is there the Tao of Wind? The Tao of Fire? The Tao of Earth, the Tao of Saber, the Tao of Bow?" "Yes." Lady Li nodded. "There are thousands of Tao. Choose one. There are so many powerful Emperor Realm warriors in the world. Many of them have learned their own Tao. There are all kinds of Tao. Anything can be a Tao. It's just that some can't enhance one's combat abilities. Learning many Tao doesn't increase one's combat abilities by much, but it can give one some strange abilities. For example, there was an old demon in the star region of Infinite Region who learned the Tao of Love. He traveled across the star region of Infinite Region. Many young ladies were infatuated with him. Later, he incurred the wrath of the public and was attacked by a group of people. In the end, he was dismembered. Tao of Love. Lu Li was speechless. What was the point of learning such Tao? Just to hook up with girls? That was so weird. End of this chapter. Chapter 3102. Lu Li asked Lady Li and she told him everything. She was knowledgeable in the theory of martial arts. The desolate race had been treating her as the successor of the younger generation. Many powerful warriors had taught her. She had 2 founding fathers with her, not only to protect her but also to guide her cultivation. Therefore, Lady Li's theoretical knowledge of martial arts was profound. Lu Li asked many questions. As a prisoner, Lady Li answered all his questions. They chatted for an entire morning. "Are you done?" Lady Li was losing her patience. She asked Lu Li since he did not say anything. Lu Li threw her a look and replied, "Are you impatient? I think you have forgotten who you are. I advise you to be smart or you will be the one to suffer." Lady Li twitched her pretty nose. She wanted to retort but swallowed it down. Lu Li waved his hand. He closed his eyes and began to think. What was Tao? Why did one have to study Tao in order to progress? Lu Li did not ask what Tao was in detail. Immortal of Tianzue once said that Tao must be learned by oneself. What others taught was not Lu Li's own Tao. The holy mountain continued to fly. Lu Li's Dharma realm continued to absorb the poisonous fog while he pondered his own Tao and consumed some elixirs to nurture the soul. Time flew by without a trace. Soon, another half a year had passed. Lu Li's law realm had 300 drops of the venomous liquid. With so many venomous liquids, Lu Li's confidence was boosted. The venomous liquid could be used to kill Saint Kings. During this time, Blood Fairy had collected many elixirs. Of course, some were poisonous. She had collected at least hundreds of them. Since Lu Li could not understand them, he put them in his interspatial ring. Later on, he would find someone to identify them. The poisonous fog in the periphery of the swamp of ancient poisons had almost been absorbed. The fog was thinning. They would be in the deeper part of the swamp. Blood Fairy asked Lu Li if they should go deeper. "Let's go." Slowly. Lu Li made up his mind and gave the order. If the average poisonous fog could be absorbed, then the more dangerous ones could be absorbed as well. Lu Li believed that the Dharma realm could stand it as well. This was an invincible furnace. He was right. As the holy mountain flew inside, the poisonous fog became thicker and its color became darker. Lu Li was getting nervous. When the holy mountain was completely in the poisonous fog, he told Blood Fairy to stop. The swirl in the realm of magic spun quickly. The poisonous fog entered Lu Li's body and then went into the realm of magic directly. Very good. A moment later, Lu Li was delighted. The toxic fog did not affect him and the Dharma realm was not affected. The furnace could melt any kind of energy. Of course, Lu Li did not let Blood Fairy fly around randomly. Instead, he moved bit by bit, absorbing the toxic fog and then flying deeper. At the same time, he kept a close eye on Blood Fairy in case something went wrong. A month later, the holy mountain had moved for dozens of miles. Lu Li had absorbed the poisonous fog in the area. Nothing happened to his body and the Dharma realm. Lu Li could put his mind at ease. The poisonous liquid was still forming. Lu Li wondered if he should absorb all the toxins in the entire swamp of poison. By then, he could make thousands of drops of the liquid. If an average Saint Emperor came to attack him, he could sprinkle the liquid over. Unless the Saint Emperor was wearing armor of the same level as Lady Li, he would not be able to survive. I don't think this is the deepest part of the swamp of poison. Lu Li thought of something. If this was the deepest part of the swamp of poison, then the poisonous fog here could kill a warrior that was infinitely close to the consummate realm. But Lu Li had condensed the poisonous liquid here, which must be hundreds of times more potent. If the poisonous fog here could kill a warrior that was infinitely close to the consummate realm, then the poisonous liquid Lu Li condensed could kill a warrior at the consummate realm. Also, Lu Li had absorbed a lot of poisonous fog. How could there be so much poisonous fog? Therefore, Lu Li believed that this was not the deepest part of the swamp of poison. The poisonous fog in the deepest part of the swamp of poison could be even more horrifying. Time moved on. 3 months later, most of the poisonous fog was absorbed by Lu Li. Hundreds of elixirs grew here. Lu Li collected them all and would identify them later. Inside the Dharma realm, there were many enhanced poisonous liquid. The liquid was black and gray in color. Lu Li sensed something that could frighten people. Not even Lu Li could tell how horrifying the poisonous liquid was. Today, Lu Li finally realized that he had reached the deepest part of the swamp of poison. He saw a valley up ahead. Outside the valley, there was no poisonous fog. Instead, there was an isolation zone. In the valley, there was a red poisonous fog and a breath of lethal energy. Lu Li didn't dare to go closer. The sense of danger was too strong. He sensed something horrifying was lurking there. It was not because of the poisonous fog. It was possible that some powerful beings were growing in there. Lu Li sensed from the distance. He was struggling. He believed that if he could absorb some of the red poisonous fog and condense a drop of poisonous liquid, he could kill a powerful Saint Emperor. That being said, if he were to go closer, what if the powerful beings in there could crack open his holy mountain? The holy mountain was a piece of treasure, but it was not omnipotent. Powerful beings should be able to crack open the holy mountain's defense. Luli thought for an hour. In the end, he made up his mind and said, "Blood Fairy, fly into the valley slowly. Be ready to leave at any time." Whoosh! The holy mountain became the smallest stone and moved toward the valley. Luli asked the holy mountain to fly higher so that it could approach the red poisonous fog. 2 miles, 1 mile, 100 feet. As soon as the holy mountain approached the red poisonous fog and absorbed some of it, a deafening roar came from down below. Then, a huge tail swept toward the holy mountain. Luli saw a black tail with a width of 100 feet and covered in black scales. The tail was like a whip that could destroy everything. It was like an almighty's whip. At that moment, the horrifying pressure made Luli's soul tremble. He couldn't move a bit. "Ah, what is that?" Lady Li came to her senses. She looked up and saw the huge tail as well. She was so scared that her face turned pale. It was as if Fu Zhu had exerted his full strength. If the mountain could not withstand it, both she and Luli would be smashed into pieces. Boom! The holy mountain was smashed away. It moved for hundreds of miles. Blood Fairy said, "Master, the holy mountain is cracked open. Many glyphs are ruined. We must leave at once." "Let's go." Luli was still trembling in fear. He yelled. Blood Fairy controlled the holy mountain to fly away. Luli looked back. The tail had disappeared into the red poisonous fog. The holy mountain was thousands of miles away. The creature in the poisonous fog did not come after them. Luli breathed in relief. "What kind of monster is that? It is so powerful." Luli gulped and murmured. This was the most powerful creature he had ever seen. If it were not for the holy mountain, he would have been smashed into a mist of blood even if he was at his strongest state. P.S. Take a day off and continue with the next 4 chapters tomorrow. End of this chapter. Chapter 3103. Luli had met many powerful warriors. You should be at the later stage of the Saint King realm. That being said, you was not on the same level as the beast. Of course, the beast might be stronger than a warrior. That being said, the beast could be as powerful as a warrior that was close to the complete realm. Move, move, move. Luli did not dare to linger. He told Blood Fairy to fly the mountain away. Luli did not stop until they were several million miles away. Luli let the sacred mountain fly down and put it away. He asked, "Is the sacred mountain badly damaged?" "Yes," Blood Fairy replied with a lingering fear. "If that monster had been just a little bit stronger, the sacred mountain would have exploded. Right now, the sacred mountain's defenses are less than 1/10 of its original strength. Even an ordinary Saint Emperor would be able to shatter it." "But," Luli asked, "can the damaged patterns be repaired?" Blood Fairy thought about it and said, "I am not sure. I can try. I think I can. I need some time to study. Master, you must be careful. The mountain cannot be used for now." "I understand." Luli nodded. He didn't explain to Lady Li what had just happened. He flew to a nearby city quickly. Luli teleported toward Mount Qin Yun. On the way, he kept changing his appearance in case enemies could track him down. Half a month later, Luli returned to the Mount Qin Yun. He sneaked into the underground and checked the outside with psychic power. Guan Yang and the others behaved themselves and didn't act rashly. Whoosh! Guan Yang and the others were alerted when Luli walked out. Guan Yang came over with someone and asked with concern, "Lord, where have you been? I sent you messages, but you did not reply." "I am cultivating," Luli answered casually. He sat down and asked, "Is there anything going on?" "Nothing serious." Guan Yang replied, "Lord, we did not find any powerful warriors of that race. Nothing has happened in the Cyan Tiger region. It is just that something strange has happened at the swamp of Toxic Ancient. Much of the toxic fog has disappeared. I heard a loud roar from the depths of the swamp." "Really?" Lu Li didn't expect that the news would spread so fast. It had only been half a month since the monster started its attack. How did Guan Yang know about it? However, Guan Yang had spies in every city, so it was normal for him to receive the news immediately. Lu Li nodded and said nothing more. Guan Yang seemed to have remembered something. He said, "Something big happened in a universe nearby. A land of treasures was found there. It is said that it is the grave of a powerful warrior who is infinitely close to the consummate level. Countless old devils swarmed over. That place was in complete chaos, and the nearby cities were all destroyed." Lu Li was not interested in any of these, not even the graves of warriors at the consummate level. He asked some more questions and then went underground to cultivate. Lu Li dared not to go anywhere until the sacred mountain was restored. He planned to stay here and cultivate his body and soul while he was at it. More toxic liquids were being produced in the realm of magic. There were already 600 or 700 drops of regular ones. There were more than 500 drops of regular ones and more than 100 drops of enhanced dark gray ones. Soon, more than a month passed by. Finally, the realm of magic stopped producing toxic liquid. What made Lu Li overjoyed was that the last drop of toxic liquids was dark red in color. Lu Li absorbed some of the red toxic fog in the deepest part of the swamp of toxic ancients. Maybe it was because he had absorbed too little that he could not produce a single drop of toxic red liquid. Instead, there was a drop of dark red liquid. This liquid is so strong. Lu Li used psychic power to check the liquid. He felt his soul was trembling. A horrifying chi and energy came to him, freezing his soul. He felt like he was facing the huge beast in the depths of the swamp of toxic ancients. This drop of toxic liquid is so strong. I think you can kill it easily. Lu Li was excited but also a bit regretful. If he could absorb more of the red toxic fog and produce a drop of pure red liquid, he could kill a warrior that was infinitely close to the completion of the realm of magic. 3 days later, the jade talisman in Lu Li's hand glowed. He frowned and flew to the hall outside. He used psychic power to check. Guan Yang and the others were gathered together. They were all angry and filled with killing intent. "What is it?" Lu Li walked into the hall and asked casually. Guan Yang bowed and cupped his fists. "Lord, we have to go down the mountain. We might not be able to come back, so we wanted to inform you." "You can't come back?" Lu Li saw that one of the 13 brothers was missing. Lu Li was reassured. He asked, "Did something happen to 11th? "Yes." Guan Yang nodded in sorrow and said, "Today, 11th went to the Earth Tiger region to collect information. He had a conflict with a young master of the blood race. Then, he was besieged by a group of blood race warriors of the blood race. He was killed on the spot and nothing was left of him. We are going to get revenge. We will not stop until we kill that young master of the blood race." Lu Li asked, "Blood race? Are they strong?" "He's not particularly strong," Guan Yang said coldly. "They are a middle-level race nearby. There are 3 warriors at the peak of the blood race. But there are more of them, dozens of them. But since they killed my brother, we will kill them even at the cost of our lives." 3 at the peak of the blood race? Lu Li didn't worry too much when he heard that they were only at the blood race. He had so much venom that he could kill all of them easily. After some thoughts, Lu Li said, "Go. Come back as soon as you have your revenge. Don't act rashly." Lu Li didn't want to help Guan Yang. He was here to keep a low profile, not to fight for territory. If it weren't for the fact that someone was messing with him, Lu Li wouldn't bother. "Yes, Lord." Guan Yang cupped his fists and left with his brothers. Lu Li went back to the underground to cultivate and study his Tao. Soon, more than a month had passed. Lu Li, who had been cultivating, was alarmed again. He flew up in anger, only to see Guan Yang covered in blood. There were only 5 blood race warriors following him. One of them was badly injured and seemed to be dying. Plop, Guan Yangyi knelt on the ground, kowtowed to Lu Li and said, "Lord, please help us get revenge. As long as you help us this time, we will pledge allegiance to you for the rest of our lives. We will be at your beck and call without any disloyalty." Lu Li didn't say anything. After a moment of silence he asked, "Tell me the details." "We killed Shuewuyu. But he is the grandson of the chief patriarch of the blood race. Coincidentally, the chief patriarch was nearby and he killed 6 of my brothers. Powerful warriors of the blood race are on their way. I think they will arrive in an hour. They have more than 30 blood race warriors and thousands of warriors. We cannot stand them. They are here." Lu Li pulled a long face. If they were not here, he wouldn't care. Even though Guan Yang had surrendered to him, Lu Li didn't think much of them. But now that the blood race was here, Lu Li had to take action. He was used to this place and he didn't want to move. After some thoughts, Lu Li waved his hand and said, "Go and tend to your wounds. I will deal with them later. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version." Chapter 3104. As a matter of fact, the conflict between Guan Yang's brothers and the vampiric race was because of the elixirs Lu Li gave them. Guan Shi went to sell some of the elixirs because some of them were rare and expensive. A young master of the vampiric race wanted to buy some elixirs. Due to the price difference, they had a verbal conflict. Guan Shi was killed when he left the city. In the Cyan Tiger region, the vampiric race was not a particularly powerful race. But they were once a major race in the fourth heaven. Their disciples were proud. For them, a warrior of the vampiric race was nothing. How dare he insult the vampiric race? So be it. But Guan Shi had 12 brothers. Guan Yang and the others all killed that young master of the vampiric race and 3 warriors of the vampiric race. They had stirred up a hornet's nest. It just so happened that the grandpa of that young master of the vampiric race was nearby with a group of warriors of the vampiric race. As soon as they received the news, they came over. In the end, Guan Yang and the others were defeated. Only 6 of them made it back. The others all died in battle. Though Guan Yang and the others managed to escape, the vampiric race had left a blood seal on them. They could be tracked no matter where they went. Guan Yang had no other choice. He knew that if he could not ask Lu Li for help, none of them would survive. Lu Li asked Blood Fairy. The holy mountain was not fully repaired yet, but half of the glyphs were repaired. Lu Li told Blood Fairy not to worry about the holy mountain and to build more glyphs in Qin Yun Mountain. More formations of confusion, the more, the better. There wasn't enough time. Blood Fairy only had enough time to set up a maze formation, and groups of soldiers rushed over. The vampiric race was preparing to attack a small race nearby. That young master of the vampiric race had come to buy elixirs in preparation for the war. Many battleships came. The battleships were filled with warriors of the vampiric race, including warriors of the vampiric race. A flag was flying on the battleship. On the flag was a blood-red claw. This flag had always been the pride of the vampiric race. Back in the fourth heaven, many races would tremble in fear at the sight of this flag. Over a dozen battleships surrounded Qin Yun Mountain. An old man in a blood-red robe stood on the deck with his hands clasped behind his back. He looked coldly at Qin Yunshan and snorted, "Do you think you're safe hiding in this mountain? Everyone, attack! Blast this mountain apart!" Thousands of Blood Tribe airships hovered in the air. The Blood Tribe members were about as tall as humans, but their faces were especially fair. Their ears were sharp, and they had wings on their backs. Their hands were shaped like claws, and their faces were all very handsome. This group of soldiers were basically all at the late stage of the Fifth Tribulation and the peak of the Fifth Tribulation. There were also hundreds of feudal lords and about 30 thearchs. The overlord-ranked warriors did not make a move. The soldiers began to attack in a frenzy. All sorts of attacks rained down on them. A barrier of light lit up and blocked all the attacks. This light barrier was abnormally powerful. Not only did it not fluctuate, its color did not even fade. What a powerful formation! The group of Thearchs gasped inwardly. Even an ordinary Tharch wouldn't dare to take the attack of a few thousand Blood Clan members head-on. Yet, this array formation didn't even ripple. "You guys go too." The great elder of the blood race waved his hand, and the group of Emperor-level experts followed suit. This time there was some reaction, but it was only a slight ripple, and it wasn't broken. Guan Yang and the others were alarmed, all of them were greatly astonished. This formation was arranged by Guan Yang. Guan Yang himself was very puzzled. When did his formation become so strong? Yes, Lord. Guan Yang suddenly looked at Lu Li, who was sitting in the hall. Lu Li must have secretly changed the formation and strengthened it. Otherwise, if it were Guan Yang's formation, it would have been blown up in the first round. Later, when the formation is broken, Guan Yang, you go and attack that chief patriarch of the blood race. Lu Li ordered. You just need to stall that chief patriarch. I will take care of the other Thearchs. I will finish this in the time for one incense stick to burn. What? Guan Yang and the others were surprised and then overjoyed. When all the Thearchs were killed and only the chief patriarch was left, they would be able to kill the chief patriarch easily. By then, Guan Yang and the others would be able to kill the chief patriarch easily, not to mention Lu Li. By then, Guan Yang and the others would be avenged. The Thearchs and the thousands of warriors were attacking wildly. When the formation was about to break, Lu Li suddenly shouted, "Blood Fairy, do it!" Boom! All of a sudden, the formation exploded. Smoke spread out to an area with a radius of thousands of miles and enveloped all the warriors nearby. The formation of illusion that Blood Fairy secretly built was activated. From the smoke, many beasts roared. The beasts looked real, as if they were real beasts. Charge! Guan Yang and the others stared at the chief patriarch of the blood race. They roared and flew out. In an instant, they were close to the chief patriarch. Not even this illusion could fool the chief patriarch of the blood race. He snorted and said, "Courting death." The moment Lu Li set up the formation of illusion, he disappeared and used stealth. He flew up quietly and blended in with the blood race. With a white glare, he turned into a blood race. At the moment, all the Thearchs were staring at Guan Yang and the others. Naturally, none of the blood race noticed Lu Li. The average blood race were frightened. They were in a mess. Many of the blood race attacked and hit their fellow blood race members. That blood race member thought it was a beast attack and began to fight back. How could the situation not be chaotic? Don't move. What you are seeing is an illusion. One of the emperors shouted in rage. Lu Li squinted and flew toward him quietly. He was terrified. He had randomly released some divine energy, but in those attacks there was a drop of venom. That great emperor did not mind at first. However, when the divine energy was about to reach him, he was taken aback. He sensed the fatal danger. Boom! By the time he realized what was going on, it was too late. The divine energy hit him, and the venom went into his body. Then, his body melted at an unbelievable speed. He turned into a skeleton and fell to the ground. Well, this venom is much stronger than before. Lu Li was overjoyed to see this. Without any hesitation, he took actions in a frenzy. He targeted several great emperor nearby and attacked them separately. What? Those great emperor were still staring at the great emperor that had turned into a skeleton. They were stunned. They could not understand why that great emperor had turned into a skeleton. Well, how dare you? No, this is dangerous. He is not one of the blood race. Source energy, he is a great emperor. Several great emperor came to their senses. Lu Li's mode of attack was different from that of the blood race, especially when Lu Li was using source energy. The blood race that Luli was pretending to be was just an average warrior, which was clearly fake. 2 of the Overlord ranks reacted too late and were hit. The other 2 Overlord ranks released their attacks, but the venomous liquid dispersed and sprayed on their bodies. Only the 2 Overlord ranks managed to dodge in time. With some miserable cries, the 4 Great Emperor turned into skeletons and fell to the ground. Now, they knew why that Great Emperor had turned into a skeleton. Someone had done this secretly. Who is this? All the powerful blood race warriors stared at Luli. When they realized that Luli looked the same as a blood race warrior, they were even more shocked. Who was this? Why did he have such strange skills? More importantly, what sorcery was he using? How could a great emperor turn into a skeleton? This was unheard of. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leader's mobile version. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.